Alright. Hello everybody, greetings. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is of course Saturday, October 23rd? My computer says 23rd, so I'm going to assume it's the 23rd.
Mine also says the 23rd.
I gotta glance over and be like, maybe we should do 23rd? Yes. Yeah, we got an interesting docket of stuff for you today. I've thrown it over into chat, but if you're not there for that, we're going to talk about some Paizo, some Judge Dredd, a Gold Dragon, Gurps, a Tricorder, and some other topics. And we will be exploring a little bit of a dreaded secret from deep within the annals of D&D history, Thaco.
Bum, bum, bum.
But that's going to be an interesting discussion. But for now, why don't we just start with one of the big topics I think at hand is that Paizo's unionized.
Which is weird.
Yeah. So, it seems as though earlier this week, a union, the United Paizo Workers Union, formed. It's affiliated with the Communications Workers of America, that larger union group, and Paizo effectively put out an announcement that they've recognized the union, which is good, and that I guess that's the easy way of saying, like, we're not going to fight unionization, is we recognize them. I don't know exactly how these things work, because I gotta be honest, like, unions I know are a very good thing, but they're also this thing that has had issues in the past, and also, like, has a stigma about it nowadays, and I think that stigma comes from a lot of, like, companies that don't want them because it would make things better for the workers, and have made a negative press for them. Just
It
saying.
really depends. Now, I don't have any personal experience with unions, but I do have the second-hand experience. Because, like, I don't want to name names or anything, but there are some unions that are, like, very, very for the worker in person, right? Mm-hmm. They want to make sure that their people get, like, sick days and, like, non-stupid hours and other things like that. And there's two of them that are really big. I'm not naming anything by saying the Teamsters.
Yeah.
That's a really, really big one. And then there's another one I think that's related to shipping, and that's a really big one as well. But like, it's easy to, like, fear them, I guess, just because of how some of them can be very powerful, and I think it's just a general people are afraid of, like, things with lots of power, when that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to use it for evil.
I think it's the thing of, like, if I sign up to work for a company, I know what I'm getting into with that company, and people fear because a union is like a second level of a company that's separate from it. It's sort of like, if I'm going into a company that has a union, I have to recognize that I've got basically two levels of things. So granted, again, it depends on the union, and I think it depends on the people in charge of that union, and I think, I'm sure there's been some, like it's like Teamsters. Like, historically, I think they've done a pretty good job, but there has been, like, stories of negative press with them in the past. And I think, especially during, like, the mob era and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's stories like that people remember, but regardless, the idea of collective bargaining to allow for, better conditions for work is not a bad place, and it does ensure the company doesn't do bad choices, and, again, like, I gotta say,
unlike gaming people, which are not allowed to join unions, and their worker people are treated as slaves for a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's probably bad.
Video games need union. Oh, well, hey,
yes.
We could switch over right away.
Welcome to the topic of unions.
Yeah.
It's related, sort of.
Well, we were just saying how,
joined on video games.
Well, this is, of course, Paizo is unionized.
Yes, which is a good thing. And
we were just talking about how video games really need a union, unfortunately.
Yes.
the mistreatment in that company is just bad. But the thing is, I have to remember, my experience with unions was when I worked for about half a year at Walmart. When I first started working there, one of their, like, they had videos that you'd have to watch, to be, like, your training videos.
Yeah.
One of them warned you against union people.
I'm
Yep.
just Just gonna tell you, they still make you watch their video.
Of course they do.
And if at Walmart, side tangent, if you even like mention the word union, your ass is fired.
Yep. That happened. I forget who it was, but if your company is anti-union,
Yes.
and there's talk of unions, that's grounds for firing.
Yep, he'll just fire you.
It was like here in
Which is
Pennsylvania.
technically illegal.
Not here in Pennsylvania.
They can. They don't have to give a reason for firing you in Pennsylvania. It's
Yep.
bullshit. I'm thankfully unionized currently.
Mm-hmm. See, that's one of those problems with... See, and then you have the union that in Pennsylvania that could protect you from that kind of shit, you know. But
I'm a unionized worker. This is the first time I've been in a union. It's nice.
But I think it's one of those things is like... Again, we were talking like there is some kind of like stigmas, and I think it's caused by things like... Yes, it's not all of the Teamsters, but there was a lot of the Teamster stuff with mobs and stuff, you know, and Al Capone era.
And decades of literal propaganda.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things is like it took me a bit to think about it back then when I'm in a high school and I'm seeing this stuff about like unions.
But overall they're a good thing. It's good that Paizo has one, unionized, two, that Paizo's the company itself did it without making the union fight legally in legal battles.
Yeah.
Paizo's just like, sure, yeah, you're unionized now. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Which most companies don't do. It is usually a very long, drawn-out legal battle.
I think that's the thing. I feel like that's another reason that I always put Paizo ahead of some of these other companies.
Yes. I think Paizo's actually, like...
Pretty good.
Obviously, they're still a company.
Yes.
So they still do shitty things. But they're probably one of the better companies.
It's that idea that, like, just because you're a company... Companies have their own rules, and they aren't people, even though our government treats them like people. That's an entirely different problem. Because they don't have the same kind of needs and wants as people, so as soon as we kind of assign them as people, it doesn't work. Because they don't have those things. So it seems like they do a lot of bad things, but technically they're doing good stuff for the company. They're not thinking of the people. Companies that give any thought towards the people are seen as better by us because of that. And, I mean, I'm not asking for companies to be good to people. It's just that I feel like, you know, it should be like Paizo. They're going to act like a company, but if you keep the people in mind, you're probably going to have a better time.
At least treat your workforce like people and not wage slaves.
They are not
robots.
They are not the company. You are the company. Treat them as people.
Yeah. This is
You're separate.
very substantial because this is the first union in the tabletop industry. Which falls in your court, wizard. Good luck. You gonna do it?
They're under Hasbro.
Not.
I don't think so.
Hasbro's very anti-union.
I wonder why.
But yeah, this is a very good thing, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know what the working conditions were like at Paizo. I've never ever actually heard anything about it. But generally, working conditions at media companies are not the greatest.
Yeah. Well,
so this will go in a long way in hopefully making them better.
And the thing is, it didn't take a lot of work. They organized their workforce like a week ago.
It was about 30 people led it, and then a week later.
Yeah, the company was just like, sure, we recognize you. I mean, that was, you know.
That's how it should be.
How it should be, you know? God. It just fills me with a little bit of hope for things in the future. I don't know. Maybe just Paizo makes me feel happy with this, you know?
Paizo generally makes me just happy.
I enjoy most of your product vomit, Paizo.
Yeah, like 90% of it's pretty good now.
Yeah.
It's not like back when 1E was around and you were just throwing up everything and it was too much.
I think they're a little bit more focused. And, like, it seems like a lot of products, but usually there are a lot of different types of products, which makes it that they can vomit all these things. Like, there's lots of tile sets. I would love to buy tile sets.
Also, a lot of 1E was just, hey, this was in 3.5E. We should probably put it in our thing that's basically 3.5. So, vomit away.
Oh, the evolution of everything that exists in numbers and gaming. That's going to be a topic for later on today. But yeah, no. Great news. It would be nice to see this be a hit for more, and like at least in the tabletop gaming industry. I do not think it will have repercussions into the other gaming type industry that needs it.
Sadly not. The video game industry is just
Toxic.
so entrenched against it at this point that every company's just like, no, we don't need unions. That's just a problem in the tech industry as well, in general.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of industries that probably could use unions.
Tech industry is like the newest one because everything else has been around for basically ever.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, movies and entertainment have their unions. So if you would go into like
SAG.
The entertainment industry, you'd be part of a union. There are like, things like the Teamsters. Those are like the shipping people, the truckers and stuff. They've got their union, and a lot of
there's restaurant unions that exist. There's like a few really big ones,
Yeah. So, I mean, the getting into restaurants, that's another complaint I have, is like I really feel like our system is the worst system for restaurant workers.
It's really bad. Especially if you're front of house.
Tip system is just terrible. It is awful.
Yes.
Just fucking pay wage.
My partner's a bartender, and I'm amazed that because he lives in a country that doesn't have a tipping culture, he actually makes money.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't expect you to be tipped, so they pay you what you're worth.
Yeah.
And then
there's actually some cultures where tipping is seen as rude.
Yeah.
Like Japan.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's basically like, oh, they don't pay you enough. Here's extra money.
You're poor.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying to them.
Yeah. Just add that extra money to the meal that I'm buying, and just say that the people are being paid a wage, and you don't have to leave a tip.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'm fine with that. I already pay extra money. Like if you add 10%. Or if you add 20% to the cost of my meal, I'm probably not going to notice it, honestly speaking.
Like, a lot of times eating out's already, like, either cheap enough or, like, pricey enough that you're really not going to notice that little bit extra.
Yeah. So, anyway. But a side tangent that's related to unionizing and worker shit. Yeah. Good work, Paizo. More power to you guys.
Continue to be better than Wizards of the Coast.
That's unfortunately not very hard.
It really isn't. It unfortunately isn't. So, moving on to actual, like, physical tabletop-related products, Modiphius has released 4 new Judge Dredd RPG books.
Yeah, I like Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
He's the law. Although I don't think he says that in the newest movie.
No, and it saddens me. The Apocalypse War, the Judge Child Case File Compendium 1, the Rogue Trooper Tour of New Earth 1. I think those are all 4 of them, yeah. Yeah, so, like, I guess the case files, 1 through 7 is a case file compendium. I guess it's adventures, I can only think of. The same with Rogue Trooper, which is Tour.
You have a link for it, so I
will link to this. Sorry, I'll link this here. This is their shopping page, so it's the first 4 that are on the top are the ones that are the new ones.
Oh shit, the Apocalypse War. That's where it gets weird.
I'm sure.
Is it all weird though?
A lot of it's weird, but once you get past like just the apartment block wars, it gets really weird.
Apartment block wars.
Yeah, because the city is the size of the East Coast, so that's how they have the block wars are a thing.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that it's so ridiculous like that.
I'm pretty sure at some point in the comics they send a nuke back in time. That's just a thing that happens. Judge Dredd is insanity.
Yeah, sounds about right. Man.
Aren't that expensive?
No, I don't know if they were going to put out physical versions of it because it's just PDFs. So they, it looks as though the 2 books, the Apocalypse War and the Judge Child, they feel more storyliney and like materially.
Yeah, I think these would be like lore for the system kind of thing.
And some character options.
Yeah.
And then the case file compendium is based because if you don't know Judge Dredd in the worlds of 2000 AD, it's from the comic series 2000 AD where Judge Dredd originally was. So they do supplements based on the other comics from that group. The case file compendium I think is 7 cases, things you can do in Judge Dredd. And it looks like the Rogue Trooper one, which is another one of those comics, is another set of missions for if you're doing more of a Rogue Trooper campaign.
I'm sorry, the title of one of these in the file compendium, Night of the Living Dread.
No.
That's a good one.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Red Dread Redemption. Alright.
No.
Monkey business, no one expects the cis. Obstructing the law, all boxed up, and the future of law enforcement. I do like Red Dread Redemption, and Night of Living
really
Dread. Those are
two very good puns.
Very, very silly. Oh, and the Rogue Trooper one, let's see here. Oh, God.
Rogue Trooper one have?
Horror at Camp Vlad, Killer in the Night, Unlucky 75, Hopper Variants, Deep Trouble, Black Market Shenanigans, Assault on New Everest, Black Market Shenanigans.
Good. That's a good name.
Just using the word shenanigans. You win with that one a little bit. I mean, that's kind of cool. They've got layouts for stuff. It looks like a lot of information.
I don't really know too much about this system.
Yeah.
I knew it existed.
I think it's 2D20 like the rest of their systems.
Much like the Conan system, I don't know anything about it.
I mean, like, for me, I could probably play it just like, at least basically, because I've played a 2D20 system, Star Trek.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, it's the same system with different skins on it to a degree. And
pretty much.
There
the
are
2D20 system's like pretty good.
Yeah, there's some differences, but the basic idea is.
The basic idea is the same, I'll compare Fallout to Star Trek. The Fallout series system is literally Star Trek, but combat focused.
Yeah.
That's the only really difference.
And they just changed some of the focuses. Like, I'm guessing that if you're doing Judge Dredd, you're going to be more a bit of combat, a bit of investigation. Kind of that kind of mixture.
I would hope it has combat. That movie's violent.
Well, yeah, because you're
You're the law.
You're the law. You're also like the judge, jury, and executioner. After you've investigated the crime, you have to punish it.
Slightly cooler than RoboCop, also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
RoboCop looks kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But it was also really violent if you think about it for the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The original
for the time.
The original RoboCop was really violent. Just murdered the shit out of everybody. Really violent.
Also, it's a fantastic movie as well.
Yeah, I think the first one is definitely...
I've only seen the first one. I've only seen the original one.
There was like a... Yeah.
Because there was a remake that I heard was like bad.
Yeah.
Wasn't the second one with the walkie robot? Because they're like, we're going to replace you. Or was that the first one?
I remember there was a weird walkie robot in the first one that was like... pass or whatever.
I think they had a version of the walkie robot in the first one, but in the second one they're like, well, just being robots kind of sucks. What we need is a brain, so we're going to put a criminal brain in one of our walkie robots and call it a day.
As you do.
Totally won't remember anything, just like our cyborg didn't remember his past life because he's basically a brain in a jar. Totally not going to happen a second time.
Yeah. Nothing bad ever happens twice.
Whoops, did we use a serial killer brain or something?
No,
whoops!
Look, the jar said Abby Normal. That's the name.
Yeah, Abby,
Abby Normal.
Yeah,
but
she's normal.
I mean, I like the original Judge Dredd movie, and I did like the second one for both different reasons. They were very different ones.
The comic is very silly.
I feel like that's why neither of them capture the comic, because
I don't think you could in like a live action movie.
Because it's like
It's just too ridiculous.
It's too ridiculous.
Because it's over
Could
the
you
top.
do it in anime?
Probably.
I think it's the idea that you're both that kind of over the top violence, but you're also like kind of silly. So it's sort of like the newer one was the over top violence, but didn't really have that silliness, and then you had the one with Sylvester Stallone, which was a lot more leaning on that silliness.
80s silly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you're really somewhere in the middle, you know, and just capturing that is not easy. So, I mean, it's certainly an interesting IP that they've been doing well to develop, and I'm glad they're doing more.
Yeah.
Every time I see someone put out like little adventures and stuff, I think it's great.
It's always good to have more content.
Yeah. So that is some more Judge Dredd being out. Thanks, Modiphius. You continue to do pretty decent work.
Yeah, you make things I like.
I just wanted to shout this out because it's a thing that's there, and it is expensive all heck, because I'm not sure how big it is. There's a gold dragon. It's a giant gold dragon.
Holy shit. It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
How big are you?
my red dragon, which is up there on my shelf, it was about $60, and that's pretty big. I'm curious as to how big this is.
It doesn't have dimensions listed. That's not good. Hold on, maybe it says on the box.
That's a good point. They might say on the box.
Zoom and enhance. I mean, it looks nice. I just kind of don't like metallic dragons that much.
Yeah.
They all, like, the silver dragon's pretty cool, right? But, like, copper, bronze, gold, they all just kind of look the same.
That's fair.
I'm
At least
try
in
to look this up.
coloring.
Whiz
Yeah.
Kids.
They all just kind of
They-
look the same.
They all have very different, like, appearance-wise. Like, if you walked up, you'd recognize them if you had any knowledge in Dragon. But, like, color-wise, yeah, they're all, unfortunately, super similar. But
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's just because Earth color.
I found its dimensions. It is 12.5 inches by 10.75 by 10.
That's pretty
That's
big.
pretty big.
Sizable miniature.
It's like a foot. It is a foot long.
I mean,
I mean,
alternatively, you can just put a bottle of ranch dressing on your table and just call it an adult gold dragon.
you really could. Honestly speaking, I mean,
No, it has to be, like, honey mustard. Because it's yellow.
Yeah.
that's true. Okay, I will accept honey mustard because it's yellow. That is
The ranch dressing's for the ice dragons.
Yeah.
That could be a silver dragon. If you don't like metallics. Or it could be a white dragon if you don't like chromatic.
Hey, a white dragon. That's an undead. Oh no. I'm sorry. White dragon probably would be ranch. Because I was thinking that a Draco Lich is a giant bottle of vinegar.
Yeah.
Just plain old vinegar.
I was gonna say onion for white dragon if you didn't accept ranch dressing.
You just put an onion on the table.
Just put it
It's
in
just
the-
an onion. Here's your white dragon. You're fine.
Little known fact: white dragons have layers. Like onions.
Yeah, they do have layers.
I mean, if you tear off their scales, they're gonna have some
Yeah.
terribly soft
you
skin
know.
underneath, I guess.
And then underneath that is fleshy organs, and underneath that is hard bones.
But
They also live in layers as well.
I mean, it's neat that they're doing these giant, like these aren't miniatures when you look at these little
No,
like figures.
these are you put these on like a shelf.
But like, I mean,
And
it
they
is.
look nice.
It's the bling to like bring out to your table nowadays.
Yeah,
like,
like-
yo, dragon fight time.
I mean, like,
Because I mean, it's not the scale of an actual dimensions like tile size for this creature.
Yeah.
So, it's gonna be bigger than that.
yeah. Like my colossal red dragon is appropriately red dragon sized. It was actually made that if you put it on a grid, an appropriate grid, it will fill up the size of a colossal creature from 3.5. Which it should be the same. I don't know. They've changed size categories a little bit, so
They
it's
have.
a little.
Yeah.
Mostly 5th edition did. 'Cause they're like, we don't want anything bigger than what is it? Colossal, gargantuan.
Gargantuan. The colossal
gargantuan,
and we don't want anything smaller than small.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are tiny creatures. But there's nothing smaller than tiny. Like diminutive doesn't exist.
They're like, well.
And then there's also fine. Don't forget fine.
Yeah, that one also.
Fine. Or you could go to. Was it 3rd edition Bessem where they had like the chart that went below those or above those, so you had like weirdly microscopic things.
Gonna fight in the quantum realm like Ant-Man.
Yeah, that size chart is huge.
It had rules for it. Thanks, 3rd edition Bessem. I'm glad. 4th edition Bessem might also have it too.
It does.
Good.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
There's like 20 different sizes you can have.
It makes me happy.
I really am entertained by that too. But no, it's neat. It's bling. Kind of wanted to give it a shout out because it's like, I mean, WizKids is doing some interesting things with that. Is this the first? No, this is a Kickstarter, but I wanted to talk about it because for a couple reasons. And one is this like the first actual new GURPS product we've had in like forever?
Maybe.
I'm gonna look it up.
Because this is GURPS 4th edition, and most of the time for most GURPS books, if I'm looking at what Steve Jackson releases, they're re-releasing stuff. That 99% of what they seem to release for GURPS related is just reprints. Like, and it feels like maybe they're just bringing back older stuff. Now the other thing about it is it's based on a webcomic. I didn't read this one, but I knew about it. And I'm like, also like, is it still like going that strong as a webcomic?
I have no idea.
Like,
I mean,
I haven't paid
if they're got people paying for it, then
Yeah.
probably yeah.
I mean, they're
funded, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've almost reached 100,000, and they found at least about 1,600 people that wanted to fund it. I mean, honestly speaking, I guess that's what, if you find enough people, you're good to go.
yeah, like, it's made almost 100K, so
It's profit. It's
Webcomics are kind of one of those things that,
they're very niche.
well, yeah, but like if someone is like doing it for money, right? They will stop as soon as there's no more money. So
Mhm.
like if it's still going, it's because people are paying, you know.
Yeah.
oh
I
my
love this crab robot beating up this covered wagon.
They include Spank with it.
I don't know what that is.
Beg your pardon?
Space Pirate Amazon Ninja Cat Girls.
Nice.
It is
Interesting.
a card game done by Steve Jackson Games that Blaze owns. Yup.
I mean, what's not to love about
75
Space Pirate Amazon Ninja Cat Girls?
Yeah.
Just hit
That
all
is some lewd art on that cover.
It might be
Oh,
the
hang
same.
on,
I think it's the
whoa.
same artist that does the webcomic did this art for as well. Probably it's included.
That's a butt.
Yeah. Yep. Game industry. I'm pretty sure it's the game illustrated by the same person. Yeah, it is a butt. That game is a weird game. I have to say. I've played Spank because Blaze owns it. Shout outs to Blaze. It's a pretty good game. It's just really weird. Just because that is a thing that would require more description and explanation than I will do right now. Just to say, like, one of the
fair.
items your characters can get is a pool boy.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Do you throw them at people to do damage?
No, you get bonuses to all your stats. Because
okay.
every character has a space pirate, an Amazon, a ninja, or a cat girl stat. Even though they're all cat girls, it's how cat girly are they or something.
You don't want to go too far cat girl, you become a furry.
They're all really furry. But no, I mean, I think my entire thing about when I saw this was like, the main thing is, how many new actual products for Gurps 4th edition are they putting out?
I'm gonna look it up.
That's a very good question that I do not know the answer for right now.
List of GURPS books for 4th edition. Let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of them. I don't know how new they are.
Yeah. Releases for GURPS. That's not how you spell it. GURPS 4th edition. I mean, they've got Steve Jack Games website. Some of these might be new-ish. I don't know.
You'd know better than I would.
I don't know. Well, like, I click on some of these things on Steve Jackson's website, and they don't look like... They look like just PDF stuff. So maybe that's what they've been releasing is just PDF stuff.
This is an old website.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord.
When was GURPS first made?
A long time ago, but GURPS 4th edition was like 2004.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad.
I think the first GURPS was like in the 80s or something.
85
sounds about right.
Was the first one, and then 86 was first and was basically like the prequel, and then 86 was first edition and second edition. Third edition came out in 88 and 2004. So 4th edition is nearly 20 years old. Okay, that's fine. Age doesn't really matter too much if the system still works. I'm gonna say that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's GURPS. It's very nondescript, generic roleplay game.
But that might
literally in its name.
That might explain why there's a lot of reprints on stuff because it's that age. Like, I didn't even think about looking up how long 4th edition's been out, but
it's old. Yeah,
if you're 2004, if you're reprinting a book that came out a decade ago, more power to you, honestly. That's what they're, like, doing, is just doing reprints of it. And GURPS is one of those big systems that I haven't tried.
I have heard about it.
Considered trying it, but I just never do.
Well, it's like GURPS, Call of Cthulhu's one.
I've played stuff that, like, uses altered forms of GURPS. And it worked out mostly fine.
Well,
I haven't played Call of Cthulhu, at least a modified version. It was okay.
Wow. Okay. This is an interesting fact that because I went to the Wikipedia to see when it started, Wikipedia's entry on GURPS. In the 1995 supplement, GURPS Illuminati introduced Agatha Heterodyne, the character who would star in the popular comic series Girl Genius in 2001, which is when the system came from. The comic comes from, started in 2001. So, the character was introduced in GURPS. That's a weird kind of coming back around.
That is a little weird.
Wow.
I can give you a nice fun fact about GURPS. The first Fallout game was originally supposed to be made using it, but Interplay said no.
Yep. So they made their own. Good job, guys. You you made the wrong call in hindsight.
Kinda did, yeah.
Wow.
They made their weird special system.
Jeez.
I wonder what GURPS Fallout would have been like, though.
That's
probably exactly the same.
Well, it's sort of like there are things that have definitely been like in the works that never came about. That would have been very interesting, you know.
I wonder what the original Fallout 3 would have been like. That died a long time ago.
I gotta be honest, I don't know.
Black Isles exploded and was taken under.
Because like I've seen people play through Fallout 1 and 2, and I'm like, I understand their goodness from a historical perspective, but I'm like,
they've aged really badly.
Yeah,
I will just say that.
That's
the first one especially has aged really badly.
Yeah.
The first one doesn't tell you how to play the game.
Nope.
That's how old it is.
And I just don't think I could replay it.
It might have had a book.
It did come with a little booklet, but the version I had, which was this is how long ago I bought it. It was a disc that had all 3 of the classic Fallout games on it. And they're all kind of bad now, but I still love them.
Oh, Fallout Tactics?
Yeah, Tactics is really bad, but I do really love the game.
I thought Tactics was like meme levels of good.
It's like unironically not that good of a game, but it's very memey.
I think that's what it is. You say it's meme levels of good. It in itself is not a great game.
No,
it's just so bad it becomes memey.
Yeah.
You know,
it's also
I have someone who like unironically loves that game.
It's also like half canon. But
yeah.
Because they still pull stuff from it.
Because I mean, like, I think just like movies, you can have video games that are so bad they're good.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, and I think that's what it kind of reached that level of. But no, like, I think I could go back right now and probably replay Fallout 3. Honestly speaking,
well, if you get it to work.
No,
is the thing.
Fallout 3 isn't terrible,
it's
but
fine.
But the thing I always tell people,
New Vegas is much better.
Yeah, if you want to play Fallout 3, just play New Vegas because it's just a better version of Fallout 3.
It's got more stuff, and also it has aim down sights, which Fallout 3 did not have for some reason.
Yeah, there are some things they made that technically make the game harder.
There were decisions for Fallout 3 I don't understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That explains something, because I played Fallout 3 after I played New Vegas.
Yeah.
There was a period of time in between there when I did. And I always thought to myself, something doesn't quite feel right with the gunplay. I was having so much more fun. It's still not bad, but I had a lot more fun in New Vegas. Why isn't this working quite the same?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they were, well, it was Obsidian. This is back when Obsidian was like, I mean, I don't know if they're, not to throw shade on Obsidian because they've made some good games, but Obsidian has a reputation of being thrown an IP and told to finish it in a year, which is really bad for their company reputation. And unfortunately, that's hurt them a couple times. I'm looking at you, KOTOR 2. But they were basically like, hey, we want to make a game. And they're like, cool, all right, well, go ahead, you can do it. But you can't do anything in the West or something, or anything in the East. And so it's like, okay. And then so they had some other limitation. But they took the Fallout 3 engine and fixed a lot of the bugs. We're talking about, like, early creation engine here. And then, like, added things to like make it play better because it was really clunky, and then they released a better story. So
yeah.
The only thing I can say though is I think the Bethesda people tend to be very good in environmental storytelling, and Fallout New Vegas is a lot less so in that regard.
Yeah, Fallout New Vegas is very much a narrative story. The story is just told to you through hours and hours of dialogue that is mostly pretty good. Some of it's kind of bad. Whereas like a Bethesda Fallout game is you just get most of your story from the environment, and then the actual story is just not good.
It varies, but
4 still leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
I mean, I didn't hate 4. I mostly just ignored the story because it wasn't good.
I don't think I've ever finished it.
I have.
But I know the ending. It's like Skyrim. I know how it ends, but I've never finished the game.
I have finished the main Skyrim. I have not finished the DLC one, but I have seen other people finish that one. But it's kind of like, it's just not amazing.
No, that's like fine. They're sufficient enough.
Like, for me, I finished all the Skyrim DLCs except for the Vampire Werewolf one because...
That DLC is just kind of bad.
Yeah, it was kind of...
I didn't hate it, but...
it added a lot of fun exploits to the game, but...
It felt very, like, go, and...
It's the same way I kind of viewed Knights of the Nine. It's neat, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
I never played that one.
Well, it's sort of like, I kind of wanted to play through both storylines, the werewolf and the vampire, and they would have both been very difficult to do. And I'm like, because I'm a very completionist kind of person when I play through, and it was just like there was a lot of hassle to it, a lot more than like anything else up to that point in time in Skyrim. So I was just like,
well, technically, the werewolf one is separate because that's just the companions.
Yeah, that's just
You're thinking of Dawn Guard or
the vampire hunters.
Oh, I'm sorry, the vampire hunters. That's right.
Yeah. Which, vampires are awful.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, they're pretty cool, to be fair.
No.
My interest in that DLC plummeted when I learned you cannot marry the hot vampire lady.
I know! It's like, she's like set up as like this perfect little waifu girl, and then it's kind of like, oh, well, thanks, bye. It's like, what? After all this adventure we've had, you're just like, I gotta go now.
My planet needs me. I must go.
Yeah, that probably would have been better, honestly.
Bethesda. Don't know where any of those IPs are going. I'm not sure about it.
On your Spark Bridge.
6.
They're going on your Spark Bridge. That's where they're going.
They're working on a 6.
One day, in probably like 3 years.
Because then they have to release it on everything. Then
because they have Starfield that they're still working on.
Yeah,
and I don't think development of 6 has actually really started yet.
I think it's pre-production, so it's like writing and stuff.
I mean, at least Microsoft bought them. They're probably not the most evil of the video game companies.
Make games now instead of release Skyrim every year.
See, they're not.
They'll still continue to do
because they're not just a video game company. It makes them less evil because they're spreading their evil out in between multiple IPs.
They're just stealing the evil.
Yeah.
As many as we like rag on like evil video game companies, like honestly, Microsoft's not really one of them.
No, they do shitty things, but they're at least somewhat pro-consumer.
Yeah, they're kind of like, hey, we realize that people like don't like when people are assholes, so let's try not to be that.
Yeah.
I feel
like cough cough Sony, cough cough EA.
Well, Sony makes terrible choices. I think a lot more. I don't know.
They have become the new like Activision and Ubisoft, and
I haven't been keeping up with them. And then like, and then you just got the weird cousin of Nintendo. It's just like you know what they're doing.
Nintendo's really bad.
They make just really bad choices a lot of time, and then they're just like, and they also just do a lot of choices that are like, you really want us to pay for this yet again? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, legally, I bought this game back in the 80s. I'm just going to go over here to this thing called a ROM I'm allowed to own because of the way this law works, is I physically have this copy here. I'm just going to play this on my computer. Thank you. No, bye. I don't care anymore about this. I'm not buying fucking Zelda again.
Oh, but what if you want to buy Zelda again?
I can physically find my copy of the original Zelda game and then show it off and be like, I'm going to go play this ROM now. Thank you. I'm going to go emulate it. Because I have that.
You have the technology.
I mean, I could also just pretend I have it and just, say, like, I totally have that. Cough, cough.
I own so many video games you wouldn't even believe.
I have a box of them somewhere.
I actually do as well.
Wait. Pile of Nintendo games next to me.
Oh, it's begun.
Wait. Ninja Turtles. The original. One with the bad water level.
That might be worth something.
Ninja Gaiden.
Hey, I like that game.
Goonies 2.
Yeah, of course.
Is it the Goonian or is
maybe.
it Electric Boogaloo?
Pictionary. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest.
That's a good one.
No.
Here's a bad one. Friday the 13th.
That's a really bad game.
Oh, I've seen that one. It's awful.
Rampage is over here too, and a couple others.
I like Rampage.
What's over here? Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, and Monster Party. Monster Party's a weird one. That's a game where, if you don't know, look up. There's a boss where you fight a floating onion ring, a fried kebab, and then a giant fried shrimp.
Sounds about right.
The bosses, all they do is they bounce back and forth across the screen, so you have to like jump up and hit them in the back. So they're really technically pretty, and then like lie down in between or like when they fly over you, and you can just beat them without getting hit. But I mean, it takes a while. Because you're a kid with a baseball bat that made a deal with like a monster when you came to a monster dimension, so you occasionally transform into him in something weird. It's a weird game. And there's also like Michael Jackson Thriller zombies at one point in time.
What a side tangent, man.
This is a hell of a side tangent.
We've gone way off the rails.
Let's talk about something more on the rails then. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Oops, all rails.
There is Modiphius is finally, after seemingly forever, going to be releasing their Tricorder collection box set for Star Trek. They're like, hey, we've been working on this for like, I don't know, forever, but cough, cough, here you go.
You have your very own Mr. Tricorder.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Tricorder, whoa.
Yeah, that's what Data calls it.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah. It's... I just find it hilarious that I'm pretty sure, like, it's been a couple years since they talked about this thing. And they're finally being able to release it now. Like, what the hell happened on your, like, was it last year? Was it something else and then last year that added to this entire insanity? I would be curious to, like, see them, like, share with their, like, development thing. Because I'm pretty sure it's been a while. I'm pretty sure back when I was doing this show with Joe exclusively, pretty much, we talked about this thing. So.
I think it's cool. I mean... Tricorder, you know.
It's
if you're a mega nerd.
Yeah, I feel like that's what
a better word. That's who this is marketed to. Is the mega nerds of Star Trek. Okay.
It really is. It's got like
buy this weird
tokens, dice, like cards, mini booklets. I think there's a mini booklet of like the actual book in here, all inside this like Tricorder box that you carry around. And I'm sorry if you're carrying around this thing you're a screaming nerd.
If you carry this around, I have the legal right to shove you in a locker.
Or you're hanging out at a Star Trek convention and trying
you're there where it's acceptable.
You're trying to impress totally everyone. Fine. You have it next to your actual recreation like piece of a tricorder next to it. So you're like, well, I could be in my actual costume, or we could play as the Star Trek RPG. Fellow Star Trek nerds.
And then they look at you like you're some kind of freak.
Because they're really different types of nerds entirely.
This thing cost.
There's tiers of nerds.
I don't see a price yet.
They're talking.
It's gonna be over $100.
Probably.
Oh, easily.
Let me go products, role-playing games, sci-fi, Star Trek Adventures. Let me see if they have a pre-order up for it. Yeah, it is £70. I think that is
probably $100.
Or the weird Ellie symbol pounds.
That's the pound.
Yeah. The pound's not too bad actually right now.
It is $96.
Okay.
Hey,
about 100. But I mean, like, for it being £70, it's not bad because it used to be like twice that amount. Fucking God.
Yeah, it's weird how
they did something stupid.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dropped a lot.
Yeah.
Economy, global.
Just like as if they, just did that kind of thing to themselves. Anyway, cough, 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 cough. Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Economies are weird.
It's definitely not for me. Economy or this product.
It has interesting things with it, but it's like one of those things is like, I don't think the stuff with it is enough for me to be like, I would get that. I already have a copy of the book. So that's not important enough. The outside bling is like, it's neat, but it's not something that I would necessarily.
I'm not a big enough Star Trek fan to have this.
And like, I guess like the exclusive campaign and the pre-generated characters and all the dice and stuff, I'm like, well,
that's neat.
The dice, I can use my own dice technically. Roll20, which I've been using, has dice rollers. The pre-generated characters, that's neat too. The adventure, that's neat, but it's not worth $100 for me. Like the parts of this that I would actually be interested in are just not worth $100. So
yeah,
but I mean, I'm never against like collector's editions of stuff, kind of thing.
Yeah, collector's editions are fine
It's for people
for
that
the most
want.
part.
Yeah. I mean, there are some exceptions.
Obviously, when you have like 6 collector's editions to a thing, then it's a problem.
Fuck you, video games again. Wait, did fucking? There's something. Something.
Like with older Ubisoft, like the last decade, where you need a fucking chart to figure out which edition you want.
Yeah, that was 2019 or something.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was for like Far Cry or some shit, where you needed an infograph to figure out what the hell came in what.
Yeah, and like GameStop was like one of the better ones or something.
That was me trying to figure out what edition of Siege I should buy. Back in the day, when it went on sale, I'm like, well, I should buy one of these because I was convinced to buy it. You know, finally, I'm like, I'd seen it. And I was like, that's kind of neat. I kind of maybe want to try it. And it's like, it's a big sale. You can get it. It's not one of their free weekends, so I still had to pay for it. Which I'm fine with because
Imagine paying for video games.
I bought that game when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It feels real bad.
I'm sorry.
It was awful when it came out.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure. Like, they've refined things, but it
is so different now.
They've made choices. There are still choices that they've made and never corrected that I'm like, this is not great for your dynamic of your game. Please change it. And they're like, no.
I'll tell you the real thing. Melee hasn't worked in like the 6 years the game has been out. They've never fixed that one.
I can definitely reflect upon that when I got like... I was doing last night with a little bit with Umber and Blaze and of the new well, technically it's a repeat, but the Halloween
Doctor's Curse or whatever.
Yeah, Doctor's Curse. And I was running away from a guy, and he swung, and I'm like, that should have hit me. And then he swung again, and it hit me. And when you saw the replay, the first one obviously should have hit me, and the second one was nowhere near me, and it impacted me.
Ooh, I love video
It was
games.
just like, what? But yes, Tricorder box set.
It's for nerds.
It's for nerds. But speaking of nerds, we're going to go on a real good nerdy tangent here because we're going full 80s and turtle power!
Oh, God.
Because it actually is called Turtle Power Card Game.
This is fine.
I mean, I watched the old movies from, I think, the 90s. That's about my experience with Ninja Turtles.
I had some of their toys.
I am old enough.
I think I had one. I also played one of the video games.
Yeah. I am old enough to have been functionally realizing the universe when the original Turtles series came on.
I'm sorry.
The original Turtle series was pretty good for its time.
I'm sorry
period.
that you're so old.
Oh, no. God, I'm ancient. It's
when you
every
realize
time,
your own age.
When we realize, when we like talk about it, we're like, oh yeah, I'm a millennial, barely.
Oh,
by like a year or two. Yeah.
It's like when I talk to someone about a thing that I like, and I'm like, oh yeah, this came out like recently. No, that came out like 10 years ago. Oh.
Yeah. No, that happens a lot, definitely. That was like...
There's a Ninja Turtles Rubik's Cube. Excuse me? Just scroll down.
Oh, yeah. I did notice the Ninja Turtles Rubik's Cube.
Is there a Monopoly board?
There's a dice set, card sleeves, Spot It. Man, it's USA-opoly. They're going to whore out products.
I'm surprised there's not a Monopoly board on this page.
They didn't have space. Also, I'm fairly certain whoever's going for the Turtle Power game probably isn't going for Monopoly.
You say that now.
I mean, yeah, true.
Just wait.
So, like, episode 1, get your team trained up by winning rock, paper, scissors style battle against the other players, where you all shout Turtle Power and show their hand of 0 to 5 fingers.
I kind of hate it.
Yeah.
So bad.
I'm not looking at anything, but just that description alone is like, no, thank you. I am much too old for such things.
I don't have enough life left in me to be streaming Turtle Power.
It'd be like,
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like, okay, granted, it's 8+, but like,
It's for kids. It's for kids.
Yeah.
I feel like
we are not the target audience.
We're old.
But the thing is, it's styled in the way of the
It
old
is
person.
the original cartoon style, which is weird.
It's this weird combo
because,
of
like, kids aren't gonna recognize that that's Krang. Well, they might. Krang has a very
What
specific
this
octopus
is-
look to him.
This is marketed for the people who are nostalgic about the 80s cartoon and now have kids that are ages 8 and up.
Oh, so like Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds about
Welcome
right.
to marketing. This is how it works.
That's just pretty much it for.
Yeah, it's marketing towards the audience that now have their kids or stuff. Yeah. God. Yeah, you win your rock paper scissors, then you fight the boss. Mm-hmm. And hope your hand is the best for fighting the boss.
Only $10, to be fair.
So it's not a huge price. So, I mean, honestly,
If you have children,
It may
Maybe.
entertain them for a little bit.
or
Then
if
they'll
you're
go back, then
really,
they'll go back to screaming.
I will tell you, or if you're a huge Ninja Turtles fan and would be the kind of person to yell "Turtle Power."
What are you doing with your life? I think we need to
No.
talk.
If you say that, then the Star Trek, Star Wars, and all those other nerds that do other weird shit like this would also be. You can't bust them just because they're the Ninja Turtle nerds.
No, I will bust the Star Trek and Star Wars nerds that do this too.
I mean, the ones that fight with like fake lightsabers or something.
Weird guys.
Yeah,
A little weird.
it is.
But you know what? Who am I to judge?
Mhm.
Play Final Fantasy.
I mean, Final Fantasy's fine.
Peak anime weirdness.
That's why it's fine. Peak anime weirdness. It's a thing. Let's move on to our last main topic because I want to
Kickstarter.
talk about this Kickstarter because it is from friends of the channel, Will and Graham, who was formerly known as Winter Bear Games back in the day, but is Will now, as he moved away from that title, and Alaran, who is the main artist on this, and I think does some of the world design in this. But their company is putting out their first Kickstarter a second time. The first time they tried to put out the Kickstarter was back in the early days of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate timing.
Yeah. It was bad timing.
Yeah. So they've taken the time and they've refined things and they're finally like pretty much, you have to think about it, it's nearly like, it's at least a year and a half later.
Yeah.
They're finally
Yeah.
putting it out again with the hopes of having a successful Kickstarter. This is the first major product of Arcanist Entertainment, which is the group they formed. And it's, if you want to look into it, it is, I guess, a miniatures battle game is the best way to describe it.
is.
Yeah, that is how I would describe it. It uses hex tiles and miniatures. I only glanced at it because I was at work at the time when I was reading this.
It is a skirmisher miniatures
Yes.
battle game.
You roll dice against each other. The highest roll does a thing, I think. It looks cool. I love games like this.
Yeah. There's
Start.
also some early adoption things.
Yeah.
So if you back it early, there will be cheaper deals for you.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I really hope that this meets its goal and beyond. I will certainly be sharing this with people I know who are interested in these kind of things.
I mean, I definitely want to give their support. They've both been pretty good to me in the channel in the past. They're both pretty good friends, and I definitely would like to see them have a success in their company.
Yep.
Most certainly. So,
Yeah.
it has just started the Kickstarter. 28 days to go. So it's just out there. Keep it in mind. Check it out. Certainly I'm hoping that maybe we can get either Will or Ollie or something on the show to talk about some of their stuff at some point. I'll try to hit them up, and I guess I'll talk with Will because he's technically kind of the person to talk to about this, I guess.
I think he's the CEO, technically?
Yeah, so he's probably the better one
to talk to.
Yeah, he's the better one to talk to. Small companies are sometimes hard to understand the dynamic of things.
Yeah. I believe Ollie is like the lead artist.
And like designer kind of person.
Yeah, and artist and designer. Because it's like, when you're a small company, you tend to have a couple different hats you wear.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
It only takes 2 to 4 players, 25 minutes to play. It's a very quick game. That's added benefit of these kind of games. You can do multiple rounds in a night.
Mm-hmm. So, let's move on to our main topic for now.
Oh, let's see what it is.
Let's talk
Oh, no.
everyone's favorite topic when it comes to classic D&D, Thaco.
I mean, you say favorite, but what you
I remember
really
this
mean is
melting
suffering.
someone's brain
I
when you explained it.
All right, let's start with the very basics.
Not even that hard.
Thaco is an acronym to hit
Yeah.
armor class of 0. And the basic way to think about things in 2nd edition, in AD&D, is that the idea is you are trying to get it's in D&D 5th edition, you get your proficiency bonus.
Mm-hmm.
It is added to your attacks, and it goes up as you level. In 3rd edition, the edition after Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the 2nd edition, they had a similar thing called base attack bonus. I'm trying to backtrack here to try to explain
Good old
it.
Bab.
Yeah. Bab, unlike proficiency, was set to different classes. A fighter got more base attack than a wizard, so on and so forth. When we get back to Thaco, you have to remember it's going to be the same way for the different classes. And it's the same kind of idea is you are technically getting a bonus to hit with this. The problem is the way it's displayed and talked about.
Yeah, the way it's displayed is confusing, especially when you see the negative numbers.
Yeah,
That can
negative
confuse.
is better.
That can confuse a lot of new people, and especially because you want a lower score
Yes.
as your armor class.
The idea is that your armor class starts at 10, which it starts at 10 in all the other D&D editions.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than going up as you add armor...
Did it start at 10? I thought it started at 20.
Oh no, it started
I
at
thought
10.
it was
It started
okay.
at 10 in AD&D.
It can. There is a 20, but I think that's not for players.
Oh.
It's for
Basically,
like...
you're gonna hit this.
Yeah, it's basically you're going to hit
That's for
this.
if you got a big fuck off monster, you may have a higher because he's easier to hit.
Yeah,
Deal.
yeah. And like maybe like no defenses or stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
it's most of the time you're not going to see above a 10 because that's the standard
No.
for a person. And I think you can start with above a 10, I think, but because if you have like the weird things about dexterity, you know, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But that's getting into an entirely different issue
That's
because
different.
3rd edition's where we introduced the idea of the standard pluses to stats. You didn't have that in earlier editions. You just had to look up your stat and figure out what bonuses do I get with my with how much I've gotten that stat. Regardless. So, the idea is if someone had a 10 armor class and you had to roll a d20, you would have to roll, if you were Thaco, like it's say first level, your Thaco would say you would have to roll a 10 to hit them, effectively.
Yeah.
It's basically you're breaking even. And you have to think about it as like you get +0 to that roll. Now granted, you can get pluses to your rolls again, not going to get into that. But to get a 10,
That's exploring more of the system.
I have to roll a 10.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy. The problem comes when you start going into the actual ACs. A 0 is 10 less than 10. I have to hit a 20 if I'm a first level fighter. See? to figure out the number without using a chart, you effectively figure out what your current Thaco is for 10, and then subtract the number. No, add the. It's math. I'm sorry.
It is a lot of math.
It's math. You would have to subtract the number from 10 or subtract your number from 10 to figure out how much lower it is, and that lower, add that on to what you have.
Yeah.
And then you have to worry about negatives, because, like, let's say...
Negatives get weird.
Yeah. But also the thing about Thaco is it gets weird at negatives, too, because it doesn't go mathematically once you go below enough negatives. If... This is going to be confusing again.
This is a topic that Cell would be great for, because Cell spent time to figure it out, and it's like, oh, it's easy, and just blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's like, I can do it pretty easily now.
I have the chart, I can do it easily.
The chart's very easy to understand. It helps it a lot. But for a good example is a first-level fighter trying to hit something with an armor class of -10 doesn't have to hit a 30, they have to hit a 25.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird, and it is, but it's basically meaning when you get into those above 20s, it's not as punishing. It's, I guess, the easy way of saying that. Very quickly, it becomes not as punishing. Now, Fighter is an easy example because their Thaco goes up rapidly. At a for a fighter that is 17th level, has to roll a 10 to hit an armor class of -6.
Yeah.
So by the time you've gotten there, you're really good at hitting it. You know.
You're good at hitting things with your sword or your axe or your hammer.
You have to think that you've gotten an extra 16 to hit almost.
Yeah.
And that's a great way of thinking about it. You've got an extra 16 to hit. The numbers have increased that way. Granted, that's for fighter. Like the main chart here that I'm looking up right now is for the first edition AD&D, which first and second edition AD&D is where they really used Thaco. Which, I mean, first edition AD&D came out in '79, and that was second edition came out, I think, during the '90s. And
second edition
AD&D, because it's like because
AD&D
had a 3.5.
Yeah.
89. Yeah. So
basically the 90s.
I was a very young child at that point.
It's confusing because, like, there was an actual first edition, and then there was an Advanced Dungeons & Dragons first edition, and then there was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons second edition. But the first two editions, like many RPGs, were very close together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to figure out those early days. But when we talk about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons second edition, it's the traditional AD&D most people talk about. The chart I'm talking off of, though, is one from the first edition, so if there's any differences between that and second edition, if you're looking up yourself, forgiveness, it works the exact same.
Yep.
But basically, the different classes would have different Thaco charts, and oftentimes associated together. Sometimes different species would have their own different things, too. I'm going to try to keep up with that correction. See if actually anybody else does in the universe.
I think half-elves use... It says in the chart, the one I'm looking at, half-elves use the same one that elves do. So they are different per species.
Yeah. So, like, because this one also mentions that halflings and humans use this chart that I'm looking at, which is on one of the Thaco Wikipedia article, not a main one or something. So, I mean, the mechanics itself is relatively straightforward if you know some basic math. Honestly,
you have to think of it. This is how I kind of view it. In good old 5th edition modern tabletop, specifically D&D and Pathfinder, you'd use addition to figure out if you hit. You just use subtraction here, basically, to figure out if you hit.
You honestly might use both, because
you can use both, because It's not that hard of a system, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just, it's old, it's weird, and I think people the reason it gets the worst rap it gets is because people look at it and it's just different, and it's a lot of numbers.
I think the easiest way to boil it down, and this is beyond the chart and everything. You are going to be given, at whatever level you are, a Thaco number. That Thaco number tells you what you need to hit armor class of 0. If something has a greater than 0, you subtract it from your Thaco to see what you have to hit. Which sounds pretty bad, but you're going to be subtracting even if it goes negative, because 2 subtraction symbols in math equals a plus. If you subtract a negative, it adds. There you go. It works. Ish.
On this sort of page here, for example, a character with a Thaco of 14 must roll between a 14 and a 20 on a d20 to hit an opponent with an AC of 0. Against an opponent with an AC of 6, he hits on a roll between 8 and 20, and it gives the example 14 minus 6 equals 8. So it's just more math, basically.
It's math.
It's a bit more math, which modern tabletop already has math in it. I'm sorry. I know it's done automatically online now. You would be doing math if you were at a table.
I get that, it's one of those ones that, like, I'm looking at this here, that apparently, like, the TSR people would like to pronounce it Thaco.
Fake. I don't agree with you on that one.
I have always pronounced it Thaco.
Yeah.
I don't agree with Thaco. It's weird. It's like GIF. That's not correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
You're just wrong.
Sorry, dudes. You're just wrong.
You're just incorrect. I know you like made it and stuff, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Just accept the fact that you're wrong.
Just accept it.
But yeah, Thaco is something it was under development. They figured it out, and the thing is, the concept of it, that it's what you have to hit to get 0, and you kind of do the math then to get to the AC. It's kind of the opposite way that they did it in 3rd edition, because in 3rd edition, rather than doing the math on a number you have, you do the math.
You just have a target number.
Yeah, you have a target number, and you're doing the math to your die roll more.
Which a lot of systems still use target numbers.
Yeah.
So it's not really any different from them.
Yeah, because it really is, you're still targeting it, but you're using your number on your sheet to target their number.
Yeah.
And
yes, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, and you might have bonuses to your dice, like +1 weapons still gave you +1 to hit and stuff like that. But you had almost like an extra step there, that when you went to base attack bonus, you're like, well, instead of, modifying my number, rolling, adding my stuff, comparing it to the target number, because you technically were still comparing it to that target number, but now the target number is based on the number that you modified on your own sheet. You're adding some numbers, rolling the die, and comparing it to the target's target number, rather than your own. Yeah. Modified by their AC. It's intrinsically, Thaco is fine. It works.
Especially when you think of the fact that, one, nothing like this had existed before, basically, when this was made.
Yeah.
Sure, you could say, well, why didn't they just do it on like a 0 to 20 scale with like how it's done now? Because they probably just didn't think to. Because it probably didn't work for those editions the way they had done the other mechanics. This probably took a lot of work to make.
Yeah, they were inventing mechanics that didn't really have anything. They're coming up with ideas and ways of doing it. And I think some of the initial concepts that they probably had early on, I'm going to guess, is what brought to the original negative ACs and stuff like that. And most likely, when you really think about it, probably they're concepts that they could have moved out of, but like when your original build bases on that concept, that core of it, you build off of that, and they weren't thinking to refresh that. They had their system. It worked.
Yeah.
3rd edition. Go ahead.
At the time this was made, they probably weren't thinking, oh, we need to make new additions at some point, they probably weren't thinking they would have to do that or needed to worry about that immediately.
Yeah, and that's really true, because, like, if you...
Nothing like this had existed until... at this kind of scale, until the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons came out.
Yeah.
So it could have very easily just failed.
You have to think about...
Gone.
You have to think about that, the original was 74. That's when you got, like, your very first edition kind of stuff. 77 was the first version of Advanced AD&D, which I will tell you, if you compare the original first edition, Advanced, and Advanced second edition, they're kind of really hard to distinguish because they're an evolution between all three of them. Yeah. I feel like it's really like very three different editions early on there that there really isn't a really good distinction between them. You could call Advanced D&D the first version of it first edition in a way. It's technically not. It's technically the second edition, but
it's weird. And I do personally consider AD&D the first edition.
But then you get
and you get the weird pre-editions.
12 years later, that's when we get AD&D second edition.
Yeah.
We may have gotten something based on Thaco in a third edition, but TSR went under.
Yeah.
Wizards bought up AD&D and gave us third edition in 2000.
Was it really 2000?
2000 was when
third
third
edition was in 2000.
3.5 came out in 2003. Fourth edition came out in 2008, 5 years later. And then 6 years after that was fifth edition. Fifth edition is officially going to be next year 8 years old.
Yeah.
Now, the oldest edition of
when I
D&D,
learned it was that old, that was like, wow. Because it doesn't... It's, again, I have terrible memory. And it's that thing of, oh, this thing's not that old. Oh, it's that old. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is surprisingly that old. It's like, yes, I think it's gained more popularity as the years have gone on. And I think that's one of the
that's why I don't consider it that old, because it just keeps getting more popular.
Yeah.
Also, they don't release anything for it.
Also true. But yeah, no, second edition AD&D is a core that you even have to consider that there are differences between first and second edition AD&D, but they're not as much as you'd think about overall. Because, like, if I'm going to talk about it, there were D&D video games before 89.
There were, yeah.
Like the Pool of Radiance and those all those ones that were, what's this? Were they just computer or were they on another system?
I'm gonna look up what Pool of Radiance is on.
I don't know if it was considered like actual like PC release or something else.
Pool of Radiance was developed in 1988. Just to tell you how old that was. It was on. It was on Mac. In the Amiga, and then it was eventually ported to the NES.
Was it ported to the NES?
It was in 1992, apparently.
Were any of the other games in the series? I think there was a whole bunch of them.
I don't know.
There was Pool of Radiance, Curse of the Azure Bonds, Secrets of the Silver Blades, Pool of Darkness, Pool of Radiance, Ruins of Mythdraenor.
I played Ruins of Mythdraenor.
Because that one is like a separate thing and not in the main series.
Yeah, that's kind of like...
But set in the same area. I think
that one was on PC. I remember that one.
Because all the rest of them I knew were continued.
Well, my dad had the CD.
Because the only one that I really know about a lot of is Pool of Radiance. The rest of them I knew existed, but like never really did anything with them.
The second game never made it to NES. The third game also did not.
I don't think the fourth game did.
The fourth game certainly did not. Because, I mean, it was on the frickin' Amiga and no one remembers that thing, so...
Yes. But again, like, there were D&D and games released in that time period. So these would be using first edition AD&D rules. Yep. when was this one released? 92 was that one. Because there was there was like Eye of the Beholder, which I think was 90s, which could be like second edition AD&D, and I think Genesis had Warriors of the Eternal Sun, and didn't Eye of the Beholder have a sequel on SNES?
It did have a sequel.
Or was that not SNES?
It was on...
The original one was on NES. It was SNES, but...
I don't think the sequel was on that. There's also a third game, apparently?
Really?
Apparently there's a third game, according to Wikipedia, unless I'm looking at the wrong series.
Wow. Yeah. Eye of Beholder came out... Oh, the original Eye of Beholder came out in 90, actually. In 91 for Eye of Beholder 2.
And then ported to the Sega CD at some point.
Yeah.
The sequels don't look like they ever made it to console. There was a Game Boy Advance game.
Oh, boy. Wow.
There's a Game Boy Advance remake of it. Okay. That feels a little weird.
Yeah, I Beholder 3, Assault on Myth Draenor. Why do they have Why do they really like Myth Draenor? Apparently,
I don't know. It's a cool word to say.
Yeah.
It was a really big elf place, and
I
there's a lot of books.
It was the big elf place, to be fair.
Yeah. And then it like exploded or something.
Like a lot of people died there.
Yeah, they're like all mega ghosty or something.
Man, they had even had some
It was
Dark
eventually
Sun,
rebuilt.
Dark Sun and Ravenloft games that were out on the DOS.
That good old DOS.
There was a Spelljammer game, Pirates of Realm Space.
I don't want to think about that.
I wonder how bad it was.
Probably terrible. Most of these games were probably not great. Let's be honest.
I would be curious if doesn't GOG have a lot of these games or something?
My child brain when I played this doesn't remember if it was good. It was pictures on a screen. Imagine I played it now, it'd be horrible.
But yeah.
We've learned a lot that they've made a lot of D&D games, and some of them got on the NES.
That's
Which
the
is
thing.
surprising.
It's kind of weird.
Some of them being on the NES is just a thing that you see and you're like, wow. Just wow. Huh. But, yeah. Regardless, though, Thaco has a long history because of this, I guess is the best way to say this.
Yeah.
Because technically Thaco was used in these games. It's just that you didn't have... You didn't calculate.
It's automatic.
Yeah, it's automatic. And I think that was one of the advantages of Thaco is when you had it automatic, you didn't have to worry about it. But,
no math allowed.
I'm hoping that we've at least hit the nail on the people basically understand Thaco. The basics of it. It's not a complex topic, even though it seems complex because they throw this chart at you and are like, here's what you need to know.
It's a lot to take in just looking at it, but when you really break it down, it's not that hard.
All you have to really do is look at the armor class 0 section of the chart and go across and just keep those numbers in mind. And then do simple math of subtracting whatever number the target is.
I think between 2nd and 1st edition D&D to 3rd edition, there was a huge change, though. Because original, D&D and stuff, it was more about, the combat and adventure and less about the story, which I think was what happened with 3rd edition.
Yeah, because original D&D is kind of a bit war-gamey.
Yeah. It very much was.
Yeah.
So depending on your DM, I'm going to get a little bit more modern, broad term. You usually, as a player, or definitely as a character, you shouldn't know anything about the creature you're fighting unless you fought a lot of them. So, with the Thaco, you have to know what that kind of AC is, because you can roll, and the DM can do the math and be like, all right, well that didn't hit. But the way it's kind of explained is it's like, all right, you have to roll this to hit. It has an AC of this. You know what its AC is, so you know what your roll is. as opposed to the DM saying that hits or misses.
Some of the math might also be is meant to be on the DM side as well.
It depends on your DM.
Yeah, it would highly depend on the DM.
I feel like it's the kind of system that it really math on the DM side could exist, but I've always felt like when looking at the rules as written, it's really meant to be on the player side.
Yeah, it really feels like that.
Yeah.
It feels like, all right, this is what the creature's armor class is, so then all right, well, I have to roll this. Because it's the way it's written, it feels like it's put on the player side, which is not like the most common thing. Usually the DM doesn't just say, all right, here's the creature you're fighting, it has a 17 AC, and it has 200 hit points.
Yeah, it's kind of a common thing in wargaming.
Well,
yeah.
Which is what early D&D basically was.
I think, giving up one bit of information was something that they did. Like, nowadays, you don't have to give up any information, honestly. Person rolls a die, and you're like, that hits, that misses, that does something, You don't need to. It's up to you as a player whether or not, or as a DM, whether or not you show anything about your targets.
It's kind of why I struggle as a player sometimes, because I know too many monsters in 5th edition.
Yeah.
I have to just kind of blank my brain out.
Slightly.
But, like, knowing those numbers doesn't always hinder you either.
Knowing what a monster does almost never helps you.
Yeah.
Because just because you know what it can do doesn't mean you know what the DM's going to do with it.
Yeah. Strategy, situation can make a big difference in those stats. I could take an ogre, and I could have it just fight you in a room. That's pretty simple. It'll be a numbers game based on the numbers it has. I could then also change up things. Let's say the ogre has some cover that he's behind. That changes things. It makes it much more likely that people have to come up to melee. Or maybe it's got some high ground and it's chucking rocks down at you or something. Or maybe it's in a situation where it's like a version of an ogre resistant to cold and you're in a cold room or something like that. There are lots of little things that you can do to alter the environment and the situation that you're in that it changes the battle. Little tweaks here and there that make it that those numbers mean something different. And
someone's been stealing the cow meat out of the freezer section, and your store manager really wants you to go in there and check it out. So you're like, well, maybe I should take some friends with me. We have a really big freezer section. So he's like, yeah, sure, get like 3, maybe 4, but no more. And then you guys can go and check out the freezer section and find out what's going on.
It's a frost ogre eating all your beef.
I'm sorry.
Again.
Now I really, really want to run modern D&D and just have bullshit like this happen.
It's like, hey, you, get out of here! God damn it!
Yeah, like that's just a thing in modern fantasy.
It's just a homeless frost ogre who moved in there.
Like, oh, I'm so hungry.
Or he's punching it and training for a boxing match.
Yeah, or that, yeah.
And he punches it to oblivion every time.
Yeah.
I've got fists of fury, bitches!
He's gotta go fight a Russian.
Yeah, a Russian ogre.
Daw, comrade! I, ogre from Russia. In Soviet Russia, ogre punch you? Yes? Okay! I don't know. Oh my god. This all seems very silly, but wonderful.
It's just D&D for you. It's silly, but wonderful.
I think, understanding Thaco and breaking that down helps a lot to dispel the, stigma on Thaco. Mm-hmm. I think it's the stigma that, unfortunately, was created when it came to 3rd edition. 3rd edition, if you look on how it does things, it is very mathematical, very straightforward. Take the ability scores, which are the exact same the way they are now. You subtract 10 from what your ability score is, divide the number by 2, round down, technically. That's what plus you have. That's it. It's as easy as that. If it's a negative, it's a negative. You're still rounding down, technically, into the negative numbers. But that little bit of math there, you can show it as a chart. When people look at it, they're like, Oh, that's how you do it. Okay, so if I have a 12, I've got a +1. If I've got a 14, I've got a +2. Okay, yeah. -10 divided by 2. Pretty simple math. Base attack bonus. Even that was just like, it's numerical.
Base
Fight-
attack bonus was the replacement to Thaco.
Yeah, fighters were full base attack bonus. You got +1 for every level. Clerics and similar like had 3/4. For every 4 levels you got 3. You could look at it chart wise. Again, it was rounded down. So
Caster's got half.
yeah,
Every other
Caster's
level.
got half every other level. But those numbers were very mathematical. Even saves were made mathematical there. Saves were weird in other editions. I will tell you that. They were basically kind of weird target numbers and stuff that you maybe had bonuses depending on your ability scores, sort of.
Yeah, it's like, make me a death saving throw.
Oh,
Alright,
God.
that's with con. Nothing else applies to it.
Yeah.
Alright, you failed. Okay, you're dead. Here's a new character sheet.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like you didn't have the 3 saving throws. You had, like, a saving throw versus this or a saving throw versus that, and you'd have bonuses depending on situations and things.
Breath
and stuff.
saving throw was a thing.
Yep.
Now it's just like, it's a dexterity save. Or a reflex save.
Yeah, well, like, again, the all ability scores of 5th edition, I think, is simple, but it also is confusing at times, I feel like, because, like, honestly,
There are some in there that don't really need to be there.
there are 3 that really come up a lot. Wisdom,
Uh-huh.
Dex, Con. The other
Because
3...
that's reflex, will, and fortitude.
The other 3...
Strength, though, strength, I will argue, is at least useful enough that you could keep it.
yeah,
But
intelligence,
the other, like,
charisma.
int and charisma, or like,
They
they could just be will saves.
yeah, they could just be the exact same. Honestly speaking, they don't make a huge difference. I can agree on the strength one. I feel though like in earlier editions, the strength one was kind of thrown together with Constitution, but I can see separating it out a little bit just because maybe you
But
have a
I
high strength,
think-
low con character.
I
you can have.
think if you were like martial classes, you had a lot of bonuses to your fortitude saves.
Yep.
Which made sense because like you're a frontline fighter person. So like fortitude and con, or rather, fortitude is strength and con saves basically for 5th edition.
But and basically will saves were all the mental ones.
Yeah.
Pretty
will
much.
saves.
Yeah.
Thing
But-
I think is good.
But 3rd edition was that simplification. Now, there were still some problems with 3rd edition. That's why a 3.5 came out. And I will not deny that there were problems with 3rd edition. I'm sorry, the original way they did skills in 3rd edition, bad. Very bad.
I like the Pathfinder way of doing skill points so much better.
I also do.
Well, 3.5 still had some issues, but they at least made it closer to what Pathfinder does.
Yeah.
It's much closer to that, and I think 3.5 compared to Pathfinder, they tweaked
It's
it.
the same. It's just the way you get them is different.
Yeah.
Instead of like, here's a whole bunch of extra skill points at level 1, in Pathfinder, it's just like, are you proficient? Cool, you get a +3. And it's literally the exact same thing. Paizo in Pathfinder is a little bit better in that you basically, one rank is one rank. You don't have cross-class shenanigans where it's like, oh, well, because your class isn't proficient in that, you only get 1 per 2 points spent in that. So if it wasn't a class skill for you, it's almost a waste of your time to put points into it. That's not the case in Pathfinder.
Yeah, no, and I think it's like comparing like the original core rules and like, you know, the 3.5 core rules and stuff like that, and I'm actually like opening both books to compare skills here for a second, actually. Because I think that was the issue back in that day, was that skills just had such issues.
As
Unfortunately.
someone who was very recently playing a 3rd edition Star Wars game where they did that with skill points, I'm like, I remember this, and it's not great, especially if your DM is like, all right, so cool, I'm going to be doing it so you guys can get extra experience based off if you roll well, I'll give you experience. Okay, you realize what game we're playing though, right? And the DCs are stupid high. If none of us are going to be good at this, we can't hit those target numbers, period. It was only 2 players. I was playing a Jedi, and it was his brother who was playing with us. They were playing like a tech person, so they were amazing at like computer things and like a little bit with non-computer things, where I was only good at like a couple force abilities because it was such a weird system. That was one of those things that I'd be willing to try the 5th edition version of the Star Wars one, because it's so much more simplified and probably better for the player, because it's just so bizarre. And we actually already modified the game, because in that one you have actual life points and you have like endurance, like how well you can like stand up to a fight. Like if someone shoots you, it might not be a lethal blow, right? So it's like, oh well, it's like temporary hit points, right? So you take this and it's like that's that's how long you can keep fighting at full strength. When you start taking actual hit point damage, which was like just your con modifier plus like something, or not your con modifier, I think it was your con score plus like something else, depending on what class you were. You might have had a small bonus. So like if you had 14 con, all right, you got shot with a gun, all right, let's roll 3d6. Okay, you're dead.
I forgot that they didn't change skills in between the 2 editions, really. They were exactly the same. And awful.
No, they didn't.
Oh, that was class and cross-class. And it was...
Yeah, cross-classing was awful.
Oh, boy.
But you could multi-class into a different thing and then dump a bunch of skill points into like sneak or something, and then go back to being a fighter who has no ranks and no class thing in sneak. Which sneak was 2 different things. It was move silently and hide.
Yep.
There were 2 separate checks. And detecting, there was spot, listen, and search, because it wasn't just perception.
Yep.
Yeah, don't you just love older editions?
Yeah.
There's reasons why I like Pathfinder and I like 5th edition, is because they simplified some of the nonsense.
Oh god, they really did.
I mean, they simplified it between editions, too, because I'm looking between the 1st edition and I see things on this list that are there, and I'm like, ooh, boy. Like, the idea of all the different knowledge skills that Pathfinder has came from 3.5. But they had, like, weirder ones and, like, a lot more open. They only had, like, Arcana, Religion, Nature. They also had, like, Alchemy, which went into Craft then. Wilderness Lore was in 3rd edition. Wilderness lore. Oh boy. There was a scry skill in 1st edition, or 3rd edition. Oh boy. Ooh, here's a good one. Intuit direction. Innuendo.
Innuendo, the most important skill.
It was a skill in 3rd edition that they got rid of in 3.5.
Gee, I wonder why.
They just rolled it into something else. They're like, we're just gonna put the... Oh, animal empathy was one that they're like, I think only druids and rangers could take animal empathy and no one else could.
Yeah, that's just I think that just became...
Animal handling?
In Pathfinder, that just became a class ability.
Fucking read lips. They got rid of that one, too.
I think it probably became a check, like... Do a spot check to read lips, and this is what the DC is.
Yes. Well, I think they also, like, they made it that they, in 3rd edition, they had, you can't take this skill, and they got rid of that. And they're just like...
That's really dumb.
They just made those abilities a class ability, and then we're just like, okay, those are class abilities now. Oh, hey, these things that... there's cross-class if we still want to have them. Like, use magic device. It used to be that only bards and rogues could take that. Then it became a cross-class. But... still, I mean, like, skills weren't a thing in AD&D. Not the way that we think about them. Not at all. It was 3rd edition that developed these. And as complex as that sounds, it was still simpler than the shit they were doing in AD&D. And that's why it's like, there's this stigma on AD&D, because it is that level of complexity, in a way. Because I don't feel like it's more complex. I feel like it's... different. It's complex in that it isn't making the easy choices, I think is what it is. Like, if you only have AD&D, everything works. As soon as you get to 3rd edition and you can compare it, you're like, why didn't we always have this? I think that's the mindset that came in. Why didn't we always have this? That was where the changes came. And that's why when we're getting to now, after like 30 years, and we look back at Thaco, we're like, what the fuck was that? And I'm only saying 30 years because I'm saying like the 2nd edition AD&D where it was standard. Because before then, it was technically an expert rule or an optional rule.
Oh, God.
Because that's where it was in the AD&D 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide, in the basic or experts rule sets, and it was very optionally kind of existence. Oh, it was invented during a convention tournament scene.
That one I did, I did know about that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Good old Thaco.
Yep.
If we didn't have Thaco, we wouldn't have the best NPC in which, like, Thaco the Clown.
I have to admit, like, as much as Thaco is something that we look upon and we say that's so outdated, it
still basically used today. It's just you don't hit the armor class 0. It's the exact same concept.
Yeah.
The idea of base attack was the exact same thing. Now it's even simpler with just a proficiency modifier that everybody has based on their level. But, you know, I have to say even Pathfinder 1st edition and 2nd edition feel the same way. Like, 1st edition, certainly because it was based on 3.5, feels that. It was base attack bonus. 2nd edition, it's you're proficient with something and you add your level to it. Your level is now your base attack bonus. And you can get bonuses by, like, you know, you're trained, expert, master, stuff like that to get more bonuses. But mathematically, if we compare it, it's the same kind of concept. As you level, you get more bonuses. And you're still hitting that AC. No longer at 0, it's going the opposite direction now. We started adding up from 10 instead of subtracting from 10.
But you could be a zombie and only have 8.
Yeah, you could have 8 as a zombie.
I would
have
have
just a really not dexterous character.
I'm gonna look up something. Highest AC in 2nd in AD and D. When was this from? And this is not AD&D, but I really want to see this here because the first thing that came up, the highest possible AC is 69.
Nice.
That's why I'm like.
I don't think that's true. I'm just gonna say that right now. Well, it is nice. I'm pretty sure that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I know Pathfinder 1, you can get some really stupid high AC by just doing weird builds.
Oh, here's this. It's like this. Okay. They just have a stupid build where the highest permanent AC is 31 for a character at level 20, highest combat ready 35. If all the stars align, basically you've got the right cover and stuff. 49 for a character.
Yeah.
Which is actually really ridiculous that because that calls cover, like multi-attack defense, and the shield spell from a wizard, or something like that. Like you'd have to have access to all these things.
Very specific.
You'd have to have a very specific build to get that, basically.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of neat idea that someone like looked at that. And you could say you could like temporarily go to that. I really am just they're not showing it because they're not showing AD&D. They're doing 5th edition shit. So
damn.
I mean, it's
yes, 5th edition. Much more bounded system.
Hey, bounded systems, they happen. It's one of those things. They are a thing that pops up, and I think all of them are differently bounded anyway.
There's a theoretical max for every system because
you can only stretch it so far.
I feel like one of the things that you have to think about is the boundings of 5th edition are vastly different than every other D&D edition except for 1st edition. Yeah. 2nd edition's bounding is exactly the same as 3rd edition, which is exactly the same as 3.5, which is exactly the same as 4th, and it's also the same as Pathfinder 1st editions. All of those systems have the exact same bounding of how their numbers progress. Granted, I will tell you, 2nd edition is a little weirder how they do things. They don't.
Yeah, that's weird.
They don't. They gain weird bonuses in stranger ways and less ways too. So they have the same basic bounding, but like the upper and lower reaches, I think, are a little different. For 2nd edition, the standard of 3rd edition has existed until 5th edition and Pathfinder 2nd edition, in which they both took their boundings in vastly different directions. 5th edition has very minimal bounding. It's very easy to hit those maximum numbers. It means that theoretically you can deal with higher difficulty stuff or have encounters that are, you can do more epic things in, because that it allows for that upper-ended numbers because the bounding is lower. On the other hand, the 2nd edition Pathfinder, it means that you're much more restricted to being things within your difficulty because the level difference, because everything has a level, and you're adding your level to all your proficiencies, it makes a difference. My AC is going to add my level. The monster's AC is going to add its level. We're both going to add our attacks. If we're vastly different numbers there, it's going to be noticeable. I can maybe... It means that you want to fight things close to you in your level a lot more. And you can still fight lower things or probably higher things, but it punishes you for the higher end. And the lower end, you're going to hit them all the time, but then, you could just... minion.
Yeah, I don't think I like the 2nd edition Pathfinder's idea on,
bounding.
Yeah. Everything's tied to your level, including armor class. It's I don't like that.
It's a weird way to do it, in my opinion.
They restricted what bonuses you get from stuff, and focused more on that characters are important, which is not necessarily bad, but I think it's a reaction to the extremeness that Pathfinder evolved into, because I hate to say it, Pathfinder's a system where your equipment is tied to your character heavily.
Yes.
Yep.
If you do not have a full set of gear, you will be punished by the system.
Oh, yeah.
It assumes you will have gear equivalent to your level, at very least.
And most adventure paths do not really allow for that.
Unfortunately.
Because of location.
They're not good at it. I feel like there are some that are better at it. I've got to admit, Skulls and Shackles is very great at it. Because it's sort of you can go pirating for a period of time. How much money are you earning? There's a limit to it, and there's also probably issues that come up, but you probably have to earn money for your ship, and for your characters to advance themselves in gear, and things like that. And so it has that advancement, but not the thing like Carrion Crown. It's bad.
I think in Carrion Crown we had exactly one opportunity to get new shit.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have gotten another one for 3 more modules.
I think I gave one before you went to Feldergru, because I said there's a city you're passing through.
Yes. You added one in.
I added one in. Because they don't account for that in the game. Even though that city is technically sort of on the way. They don't account for that in the game. Which, it's they're doing 2 things there. Either they're assuming that the team you have can use the gear that the game gives, and that they're basically looting everything, which is kind of bad.
Like a 2,000-pound trapdoor.
Yes.
Yeah, it's this trapdoor has a value to it. It's alright, how big is it? It's 10 feet by 10 feet.
If I was still alive, so you would have just... To do the way they want you to do it, you would just have to steal the dude's shit, because he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Or murder him, I guess.
Or kill him.
He was technically lawful evil.
I mean, we're in a
lawful.
The country is evil.
Mm-hmm.
From my opinion, the country is evil.
See, it is an evil country, to be fair.
I mean, the government is lawful evil, obviously. It is very much so.
It's like going to Barovia and being shocked Strahd's evil. Ugh.
Yeah.
What? Strahd's evil?
Mhm.
Spoilers!
Mm-hmm. But it certainly was bad at that kind of thing of giving you that gear that you needed, or it was heavily reliant on me as the GM to taper the equipment to you. Which the problem with that is, when you get a set number of equipment, they've mathematically figured out what the equipment is.
Yes.
Changing things like weapons and armor is easy. All the other shit they give, more difficult.
Yeah, like weird magic items. That's weird to figure out, to change what's of equivalent value and strength.
Yeah, because they theoretically, because I did look it up, the math does pertain to enough characters. We had a bigger team when I was doing Carrying Crown, so I had to give you extra anyway. But, like, on a standard team, you would have a little extra with 4 players or a little less with 5 players. But you were pretty close to it up through at least the first 4 campaigns. If you took everything.
If you just loot hoard.
If you just loot hoard.
How you're carrying all of that, I don't know.
When clearing out Schloss Karamak is ridiculous. Like, that
I don't know how
beyond.
they expect you to be able to carry all of... There's a sarcophagus. How are you carrying... Who are you selling that to, first off?
There's a room full of stuffed animals that had, like, a price value of, like, 2,000 gold.
Who was gonna buy these?
How are you transporting an entire 10 by 10 room filled with taxidermed animals to the brim?
Finding someone to buy this shit it would have been like its own campaign.
Yeah, it would have been a side quest. It was like, alright, we looted this dungeon, now we gotta find a buyer for all this stuff.
So, like, I am both glad and sad. Like, 5th edition gets away from gear. You really don't need gear necessarily. Like, there are times where a magic weapon is basically all you need.
Yeah.
Consumables are nice, like potions and things to, like, not die.
Choose. There's no numbers or things on it, but you can choose it. My niece just gave this to me.
I just
That's
made
one of those things.
I
I'm on
choose
screen, so
blank
don't
number
bother.
4.
Take this.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
Okay,
But nice to see you. Hi.
I'm gonna sell it.
Okay, good luck on you.
Make some money.
You gotta find the right buyer.
You
You know?
gotta-
Yeah, you gotta
Find the right
go on.
buyer.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like Pathfinder 2nd Edition does the exact same thing, but they take it to a more extreme. They make it that, like, a lot of times, depending on your character, even basic gear doesn't make as much of a difference. Like, because honestly, I'm playing a Bard Lizard Man. Other than having a magic weapon, which does help, I could just claw the shit out of people and just be unarmored.
Yeah.
And then just use spells. And I'd be fine. I don't need magic items at all, really. They could probably help, but I don't need them. I did also build a super non-combat. I'm not even like a utility bard. I'm just like a weird, helpful bard occasionally. Like, which is helpful.
You're just there for the ride.
I think that's enough.
Yeah.
For our deeper discussion.
That was a
Yeah.
long, deeper discussion.
Yeah, we're kind of getting
With
distracted.
a few
a little bit.
tangents.
But I do want to talk about more like the things between like things like 3rd edition, 3.5, and the evolution of it. But like I think the topic of Thaco is a very good one
It's
to
a
kind of
very
get
good
to.
topic, and I think more people should learn Thaco so they can not necessarily see how good they have it, because they don't really have it that much different, I'll be honest.
It's just you have less math.
You just,
Well,
how it used
you
to
have
be.
you have the same amount of math. You have an easier equation to figure it out.
Yes,
Yeah.
your equation's not weird.
It's the same math. They just changed the equation and made it easier.
Yeah.
You know, they took a step away, and that's good, or a couple steps. But shall we hit up? I think. Do we want to just keep the?
Well, we already talked about the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
We already talked about a
right?
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We talked about a couple, so we'll just keep those as our Kickstarters. Our week in tabletop. Did anybody do anything last Saturday and or Sunday?
I had a game Sunday.
Okay.
I always have a game Sunday, usually, unless it's canceled, which has not happened yet.
Yeah.
We are in a spooky-ass abandoned manor that is infested with golems.
Ooh. Spooky.
It's a cool dungeon, and I was salty because we fought a golem that was immune to everything I could do, so I could do nothing.
Yay, golems!
Because it had weird energy immunities to all of my spell damage, because I didn't pick weird spell types. So I just sat there and did nothing.
Yay, doing nothing.
I also got a pan flute of haunting, or whatever they're called.
Neat.
Yep, I can play a flute and scare people. Although I'm not going to be playing that character in a couple of sessions, because I built it with Lynn's character, and Lynn's left the game. So those two characters are going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a Blade Singer. A Blade Singer Wizard, which I originally thought was bad, and then when I was building it, realized this is disgustingly strong.
That's what Stella's playing.
Because for 1 minute, I can just give myself 19 AC as a wizard.
Wizard.
I can theoretically have 24 AC for 1 round if I cast shield.
Behold the power of the wizard!
Wizards are kind of bullshit.
I mean, that's all wizards. What's the joke with the Pathfinder? You want to play the best fighter, or you play a wizard?
Something like that.
I mean,
best character throws shoes, obviously.
Well, I always enjoyed the Arcane Duelist Bard.
That's a good one.
My pirate rogue who couldn't do anything in combat, but could give himself like a 50 AC and be like, fuck you, everything.
You're just this wall.
I'm just a wall, and I bluff the shit out of my opponents with the greater bluff, so, you know, all my allies attack, they get the bonus attacks.
Horrific.
It was great.
Are you helpful? Not really.
I mean,
do you do cool things? Probably.
I make things flat-footed and then don't get hit. That was my entire build. That was really a move, action, bluff. Okay, you're flat-footed. Welp, I've already taken like a minus like 10 to my attack to like add a whole shitload to my AC. I'm done. It was a fun character build, honestly. Monday, did I have Pathfinder? Honestly speaking, I'm trying to like. It's that honest thing that like, unfortunately, like things blend together sometimes with that a little bit. Like, so unless something major happens, I'm like trying to think is like, did we do anything in that one? I think it ended up getting canceled again because it gets canceled a lot because we don't have a lot of players, and you know when we one of the players is going to be late anyway, and then because their work schedule changed a little bit, so they've been coming in like an hour late, and then they were going to be a little later, so an hour and a half late, and then another player was going to be like near like 45 minutes late, and then another one had to cancel, so it was just me and our GM for a while. Since we had to wait for like, you know, we're waiting for the second one for a while, and we're gonna have to wait even longer for the third one.
Oof.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we're like, look, we'll just cancel for the day because it's too many delays.
Unfortunate.
Tuesday,
It happens.
I didn't have any Star Trek on Tuesday because it's the unfortunate issue that there's some things have come up with the seasonal stuff, so it's going to be harder to do some Star Trek things. We were in the back end of that section of the campaign anyway, and we were talking about whether or not we continue it or not, taking like a break from it in a little while. But it will continue in the future, you know, kind of things like that. Kind of like, you know, splitting up seasons a little bit more. I don't know if I'm going to do that, honestly, with Skulls and Shackles. I'm going to take a break, but I didn't figure if I was just going to, like, you know, take a couple weeks off and then look to maybe the next season or just, you know, do something else. I don't know. Because it's technically I could do something in between, and I think I should actually start thinking about doing that, of, like, you know, split it up with, like, either maybe another adventure path or something else that we do like seasonal switch between them. I should start talking about that and thinking about that.
I think that's a discussion for
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a discussion for a group chat.
Yeah. I should mention people. I just thought of that because I think I thought of that earlier, and I'm like, I kept putting it off. But yeah,
Just run Carrion Crown again.
Yeah, just carrying crown.
Suffer.
Again.
There are unfortunate
We'll do it properly this time.
better adventure paths. I would rather run something like, honestly, Rise of the Rune Lords, because it's
I've
just
heard that. That's not carrying crown though. That's not the meme.
it's standard fantasy though.
It is standard. It's not bullshit.
It is literal standard fantasy. It has some flaws in it because it's based on it originally came out in 3rd edition and then was republished in Pathfinder or 3.5. But I feel like because it's standard fantasy, a lot of those issues don't exist. They don't experiment anything. It's just it.
Fight a dragon.
We had a Tuesday game.
Oh yeah, that's my game.
Yeah. We fought Dwayne the Vrock Johnson.
Yeah.
Did you say Vrock?
Vrock. Yeah, we fought a Vrock.
For Dwayne the Vrock Johnson. I like
the really big evil demon monster. And you had a really strong paladin.
Yeah, the paladin just face tanked.
Yeah, without the paladin, you probably would have died.
Oh, probably. Also, wizard almost got like melted immediately.
You did so much damage to that wizard. So there's this dude who probably summoned a bunch of undead and maybe this demon, and he's just kind of like hanging out, you know, probably maybe trying to do more spells or reading a book or something. And the party's like, "Hey, that guy's wearing a robe.
Fuck that guy."
And
I
then
I didn't want to hit the wizard until Cell's character was like, hit the wizard.
Yeah, so like kill the wizard, and it's like he's just a dude. You don't know anything about this man.
He's an old guy with a beard.
Yeah.
And
so
wizard.
you did 38 damage to him in the opening strike.
Yeah, and
he
just
survived.
Booked it.
And then he ran away because he's like, "Oh God, no! I am going to die."
He just booked it and escaped.
Yeah, he did run away.
Oh, yeah, we fought a Vrock and a bunch of skeletons.
Yeah, the skeletons didn't really do much, and then they did a lot.
Yeah, I keep telling people skeletons are dangerous, and no one listens to me. And then they get their ass beat by skeletons.
The skeletons did so much damage at the very end, because like the Vrock is fighting like the paladin lady, and the other two people are up on it's the forecastle or something.
It was me and this little goblin with a gun.
Yeah, the skeletons couldn't get up there, so they went for the wizard and the cleric, and they beat the crap out of them. Though the Vrock also did beat the crap out of the wizard.
I love the wizard constantly getting downed and then brought back up and just to be downed again.
Yeah, I mean that only happened once technically.
It was great. It's like playing a half work all over again.
Yeah, except for without the horrible breath weapon that kills them instantly and brings them back as a horrible shadow abomination.
That old chestnut.
Yeah. Yeah, that old thing that happens to everyone.
Yeah, every game has a horrible shadow abomination of a former party member.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, you guys went through a super difficult encounter and you totally won. You had Tony and
we had a half-orc named Tony. I forgot about him.
Yeah, he was just like guarding the rear with the one tiefling lady. You guys could have asked them to help
with Australia down there.
Yeah, and Lady Australia. But they're like because it's like the battle's been going on for a while. You guys are getting pretty beat up. So I'm like, I technically rolled initiative for them in case, like something happens. So they're like, hey, you guys need some help up there? And everyone's like, no, we're okay. So they just didn't help.
We won, and I took no damage, so.
Yeah, I mean, you got stunned once.
I got stunned, and then nothing came of it. I missed a turn, and that was it.
Well, I mean, he was trying to kill other people, right?
Good times, good times.
Yep.
Other than Pirates, did anybody have anything on Wednesday?
No.
We had pirate adventures on Wednesday.
We did real pirating, like real pirates.
You did real pirating.
Well, I mean, pirate things happen.
We did pirating.
You helped out with the pirating. You theoretically
led the pirating.
You led the pirating, and you theoretically contributed by being there present-wise and actually shooting a weapon.
Yeah, you
the fact that
tried.
Weapon didn't do anything does not matter.
No, I hit every attack.
Oh, that's right. You hit every attack with maximum accuracy.
Yeah, you just didn't see it because of all the fog.
Exactly, didn't see all the fog. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we had a big party.
Yeah.
After, and we got a shit ton of money.
Yep.
And we got pirate booty, and then the rogue and the oracle got a different kind of booty.
Whoa, yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm gonna say this: the rogue is very easy to convince of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There are less pleasant ways of saying a lot of which he acts like. I'm like,
oh, that rogue.
The rogue is
the angry one.
Sure, angry, and also wants to bang everything.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we have
to pay to have cure disease cast on me later.
Well, there's the one foul-mouthed lady.
Is she a rogue?
She's a fighter.
Yeah, I thought she was a fighter.
Yeah, foul-mouthed lady is a fighter who also happens to have some proficiency in perform. It's not great. She really likes her fiddle, but she's not good at it. She's passable at it because she has the character has no charisma, but has proficiency in fiddling.
Fiddling.
Mm-hmm. Giggity. And a person lost a foppish hat but had an extra one.
Apparently they just had an extra hat.
Well, honestly, I don't think he would have bet it. That's why I just gave him a second one and saw how the bet was going to be.
It's funnier if he has a second hat.
That's what I thought. I'm like, well, honestly, he probably wouldn't bet his hat unless it's a lot of money. And I mean a lot of money just because of his nature. But you know what? Sure, he's got a second one, so just in case he loses it, he's fine with it. His backup hat.
Yeah. Emergency backup hat.
I just also like the idea that he's got a collection of foppish hats. And
he's got multiples. It's like that Squidward meme with all the alarm clocks, but it's just hats.
But now you're on another boat.
Now we're to do all of it over again.
We're on a boat with the super evil people who are obviously evil
and really don't like it. I mean, the captain was obviously evil, but he didn't hate you. He just didn't.
Hey, the captain's like, whatever, just don't screw around and do your job.
Yeah.
Where these guys are like, hey, I hate you for no reason. I'm gonna make your life miserable because I'm a horrible person.
Yeah, they're making themselves feel better by making you feel worse.
We'll see what happens to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably gonna live.
I'm going to tell you, things will happen rapidly. It won't be this...
Please, no more 21 days of failing sailing checks.
Let me tell you this way. This is the beginning of the third part of the adventure, since the second part was just that battle we did. The beginning here only lasts for 5 days. I will let you know that. So by the
5 failed checks.
So by the 5th day, you'll be on another kind of... You're still in the same part, but you're on another leg of this entire part. So it won't be long.
Time. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun battle, even though I hit every single attack and never missed.
I became a wall.
You did become a wall. Your strategy of guarding the boats was actually really good too. Though again, someone was standing in a way where some people were supposed to emerge, so I'm just having them come from the opposite direction, and then it caused issues and stuff too. Because I'm
a wall.
It's just like, oh god.
17 AC wall.
I mean, it's probably fine or whatever.
Soon I'll be a 20-something AC wall.
Because I think the boats were technically secondary mission for you. Your primary was to get the stern castle and make sure the wheel isn't occupied.
Yeah. Stop the ship from leaving.
We did both of those things.
You did both of those. Because you brought some extra NPCs, you did enough to do both of those things. Because you were able to grab 2 people and be like, come along with us.
Grab the cleric.
I was technically the leader.
And a dude.
Mm-hmm. I totally could have killed off some NPCs, but I didn't feel like it. I had that option with this entire thing, so I'm just like, generic pirates died.
Well, rip, I really like generic pirate number 5.
No, I think generic pirate number 4 is the better dude.
They both died horribly. Yeah. They were run through, fell overboard, eaten by sharks.
Eaten by a shark. Description: it's a shark.
It's the best description for a shark.
I could have technically casted a spell that could have yeeted somebody off the boat.
I wish I could get that spell.
I'll make a scroll for you.
I've got to say this. I like that you didn't cast a spell then, because then we had the entire thing of you like actually learning your spells, and I feel like that was a much better RP moment for your character.
You learned some things. And...
Yeah, like I was kind of in my idea, because I've been level 2 for a while now. My idea was like at night they study the spell book so they can like make sure they're not going to blow up when they cast a spell or something. So I wouldn't have done anything extra with my free time, so that wasn't a problem. I didn't care. But it's kind of like, yeah, I mean that kind of tracks.
Well,
good thing you didn't use a gun in that battle.
Oh my god!
It could have very well been that like you've been preparing for this over the past like couple of days at level 2, and like this opportunity to go on the other ship and like actually cast a few spells is like your first opportunity to actually like test out the magic, and like
that's kind of what my idea was. Because I may have some extra bullets and a wound the next day.
It's not weird.
As all regular spellcasters.
All perfectly normal spellcasters can do.
Yes.
Regular
spellcasters, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. Normal. Ignore horrible amounts of doom magic cast in the background. Not real.
Yes. And that was another reason why I had to like go on the other ship, because like no one's over there. I can like be ultra alone.
You can magic alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can magic with myself.
You super snuck over there. I forget what you rolled on your stealth, but it was like you rolled like a 19 or something on your stealth.
Yeah, I got like a 19. I was like, I have like a 3 stealth.
Everyone was too drunk.
And I'm like, well, like if you'd rolled lower, I could have like actually had a chance, even with them being drunk. But I'm like, nah, they're drunk. There's a lot of drinking. Even the people that are kind of are like doing something half on job, they're still partially drinking and like partying. There's no one that's actually seriously doing anything. There might have been someone that been like, hey, don't go over there, but no one noticed you.
Not gonna stop you.
I love the huge stealth roll, much better for like narrative wise.
Yeah. No, I think the session ended up pretty well. I don't think there were, with combat, especially in Pathfinder, because it is 3rd edition combat, it is easy for issues to arrive, unfortunately.
Oh, God.
I feel none did, and that was good.
It was a good combat.
I think one of those things is combat against people tends to have less issues.
Yeah, instead of like golems or demons.
Well, it's like you're fighting the like officer, and I like looked at their feat list, and I'm like, none of these matter for right now. Great! I don't have to worry about any of these or knowing what they do. They could just be there. It's like they have like endurance, and I'm like, that makes sense for a officer, sailor, on a
it's not
ship.
Gonna help you in fighting.
But it's not going to help you in fighting. I
think it helps if you fall on the ground and are dying.
It might help too, I think. I mean,
I think it might give you a bonus to swim or athletics or something. It's kind of like, it's okay.
Endurance is never really a great one. It's like one of those choices that's like, it either
it's for a follow-up.
It's for a follow-up, or for if you have an extra feat, which happens rarely in Pathfinder, but sometimes, character-wise.
Or if you're a ranger, you just get it for free.
That's true. Rangers get it for free.
Hell yeah, Rangers.
And if you're a Thrycreen Ranger, you're a Mighty Morphin one.
Exactly.
That was Zoram. They were a Morphine Ranger.
They did morph.
Go Thrycreen Rangers! Alright, anyway. Thursday. I didn't have Children of Wrath.
Some things happened on Thursday.
Some things happened on Thursday that there was
You guys got spanked.
We got spanked.
But it's okay, the boss also got spanked. No one won that encounter. Everyone was just tired, and the boss was like, I'm not dying for this, and left. Yeah, they previously stormed a kobold cave, and then people who were on patrol came back, and the big leader was there. He's kind of mad that you broke into his cave. Also, he's a mega dick.
He was not a nice guy.
My favorite way I played him was he had thaumaturgy, so he could make his voice louder. The party was taking too long to surrender, so he just thaumaturgies and yawns into the cave.
He's just
Dude,
not a
he's
nice
just an
dude.
asshole. But yeah, you guys did pretty well. You locked him and his forces into a tiny hallway where he couldn't do anything. So he couldn't advance, and then he just breathed on you and walked away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, the party lost, sadly, tragically. The strongest and greatest member of the party is gone. Grr.
I gotta be honest, I don't know what's going to happen to my character. I've been sitting on thinking on that. Because, like...
Fun fact, you can take Grr to a temple and ask to have it revived.
Well, even if I ask it to be revived...
Yeah,
even if I asked it to be revived, I was thinking about it as, like, what would this do to the character? Because
You
this
just
is,
become
like...
John Wick.
This is, like... No, I don't know if it would be the direction he would take, though. Because this is, like, crazier than anything he's encountered. And, like, to an extreme. And I'm sorry, even if he survived that breath weapon, that nuked him.
It did.
Like,
I feel like this will change the party.
I looked at the numbers, and this is the one thing I hate to say. He rolled below average. If he had rolled 3 higher than average, I would have died outright there with that.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing with this encounter is I, as a DM, went in with the mindset of what happens. And I didn't actually hold back. I should have probably held back a little bit, but it did end up fine, relatively.
Yeah, no, I get that it ended up fine, but, like...
I should have held back a little more. Maybe stuck to just kind of slashing with his weapons.
And I can see that, like, even if he dropped a bunch of us with the breath weapon, he might not press it because there were still some people up.
Breath weapon was also, I think, a little too strong. So I will probably adjust those numbers a little bit.
I mean, just don't have him fight us again.
He is
until we level
also, yeah, like, he's probably not going to show up for a little while longer, right? This was kind of, I'm introducing a villain kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I can see that. But, like...
I think I did bungle it a bit, which is the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to introduce a villain. So, I can't.
Yeah, I think it's relatively fine, but we'll have to see. I think this is going to fundamentally change how everyone in the party is going to act.
Like, there was a bunch of stuff going on with me that this added to.
Yeah.
Like, this combat was a hard combat.
It was.
Say. And
it was the first deadly combat.
And it was more than just hard, like, deadly. I think it was, like, just, like, the emotional, like, you're up against something really tough tends to work on you. Regardless of whether, like... Because, honestly speaking, like, it's that thing of, like, should you fight this combat? That kind of stuff. There's a lot of mentalities, a lot of questions in there that are kind of hard to answer. Like, for me, maybe focusing down on the other kobolds would have been smarter. I don't know. And then we could have all focused on the big guy. I don't know. There's a lot of questions on how that could have gone.
I will say, had I downed everyone, you wouldn't have died. You would have been captured, and you would have had a chance to escape.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Those are really hard to do that feel good, though.
Yeah, it was a weird session, but like, I didn't feel the greatest about it, but I think I mostly handled it okay until the breath weapon.
I think I can agree on that one. The breath weapon felt very overkill-y.
Yeah.
Like,
what I should have done was had him cast one of his spells instead.
Cause that damage. Because like I was like, I'm like. Because, like, when you said, like, oh, they had to do your hit points, and I'm like, oh, he could have, but he only had to do 12 more.
He could have.
And then I looked at the numbers, and I'm like, what's the math for this? And I was thinking about it for a little bit there, and I'm like,
probably yeah, I should have had him cast one of his spells instead.
But, I think, for me, just saying it, like, there was some issues, which, I'm just saying, I don't know what's going on Fridays now. There was some discussion with the 7 Days group that was going on at the same time. we might not be doing 7 days on Fridays anymore. We might. I don't know if Josh is moving on to something else or if he wants to do stuff with people. I'm going to try to do stuff with people on Fridays, no matter what it is. I don't know. I'm going to say it right now. And then I've been kind of stressed out with a lot of the shit from my terrible car, and that's just been causing issues for the past week. Which is hopefully fixed now, and it's back, and maybe not going to...
Hopefully.
So far, it hasn't beeped at me hauntingly at all hours of the night and decided to go off on its own. But yes, no, it's... I feel like that battle, for me, that's why I'm saying, I don't know what I want to do, because it was not a good time. I was having other emotional issues during that, which added to the negativeness
That's completely understandable.
But I didn't want to do, in that mindset, Children of Wrath. I couldn't have done it, right?
Yeah.
And then, yesterday, 7 days, I just was not... When we weren't going to be having it anyway, I was just I just wasn't pushed to do something. And, today's the first day that I've been back up a little bit from that negative dip, and I'm feeling a little better, and I'm doing this show now with some good friends. So
yeah, and this is something I have a problem as a DM, is that I've never been able to get quite right. I either make things too easy or a little too difficult. I'm very bad at finding that balance because, again, with 5th edition, I don't know what half of the classes really can do. When people are playing subclasses, I absolutely do not understand it.
I'm going to say this as someone that's been doing some 5th edition now. I'm bad with putting combats in. That's the first thing I'm going to say. And when I do, I try to balance them simply. I go very by the numbers, and I feel like that's probably the best bet, because then curveball throws are a lot less. When it comes to bosses, I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to do for Children of Wrath.
It's so fucking hard to do a boss.
There are bosses that exist in that world, and we're on Season 2 now, and I have an end for Season 2. This is the first half of Season 2 in Yavimaya. Second half is going to be in Shiv. After that, I'm going to have another break for a Season 3, which I think is probably going to be Urborg. And that might be the culmination of everything. I don't know how that's going to go at that point in time, but that's currently my plans. But a good example would be, I had a very good combat back in the day in Season 1 in the desert. And I did that by being here's a team which theoretically balances against your team. That's just what I did. It's mathematically, this should balance out. They had a little bit of a surprise, not a complete one. And they had a little bit of positioning that gave them not super advantage, but a little bit of one. So I felt like those little factors would kind of push it.
Desert battle?
That was the big desert battle.
I remember that one. That one was pretty close, I thought.
It was a pretty good, tough battle. And
yeah. That was when I'm hey, you guys realize that cantrips scale with level.
And they weren't doing that.
Oh, man, that's right. It's yeah.
They hadn't been doing that, and,
yeah.
I did use a little bit of a Deus Ex, but they had also, sent a message. So I was it makes sense that the person could show up, and help out. So it wasn't impossible for someone to come help, just for what they had done smartly, But also, if they remember their cantrips, they probably wouldn't have gotten to that situation, because there was a lot of cantrips that were not doing their extra damage. A lot of them. And I wasn't even thinking about that either, because
I actually was looking it up too, because I'm pretty sure the cantrips just scale with level.
I think I remember that too, but I didn't check everybody to see if they had done that kind of thing,
Yeah. I tend to not check my players' sheets. Because it's I just expect that, they have everything, going on. I try and give my players the benefit of the doubt. Unless, there's some obvious, how many spells have you cast? Make sure you keep track of that, because I'm pretty sure you cast too many spells. But, for the most part, I think my players tend to not cheese.
Well, it's I kind of feel the same way. I think for me, there are probably a couple of times that I would want to check character sheets. But, like, I've been very lackluster about it for, like, a while now, for the last couple of years. And then, like, I probably should check occasionally, like, every few levels, just to make sure everybody's done everything correctly and stuff.
Every level up, I always check people. I try to remember to check everyone's character sheets.
Yeah, I've been bad at that.
I kind of forgot when you guys became level 5.
Like, I don't have a feat. Like,
yeah, you're missing a feat.
I honestly forgot.
I think Jess is also missing one.
Yeah.
I forgot my level 1 ability, and so did you in my game.
Yeah.
You technically get a little bit of brew potion thing. We
potion.
both forgot to add that.
Yes,
like,
we did.
oops.
Whoopsie.
That's fine. You can use it, in 2 days and heal someone, maybe.
Yeah.
If you want.
No. No healing.
But like, you could have like done what I did, like in the combat or whatever. If we'd realized during that, it's like, yeah, you would have had a potion and you could have like healed somebody if they went down.
Realizing stuff is difficult.
It is.
Especially if it's something you're not as familiar with.
Yep.
Because then it's kind of like, do I have something here?
Oh, hey.
Yep.
It's back, and it's got, like, stuff written on it now.
Oh,
Nice.
Stuff.
I can't read the inside. I think it's, like, slashes to represent numbers. Like,
Yes, it is.
it's like, yeah. It was weird. Here you go, thank you. I'm not
Yeah,
buying
that was Thursday. I don't feel great about that session, but I don't feel truly horrible about it. It's
Like-
one of those weird things of, I don't know how to feel about it.
I think it was mostly okay.
I'm feeling better about it post it, is what I'm saying. You know, like,
Yeah.
I had to recover everything else about that day to get
Mm-hmm.
to a point in time where I can reflect on it better.
I will say, don't feel too bad. You aren't the only one who had issues with it. Lynn also had some issues with it. So I had a conversation with Lynn about it.
Is her name Josh?
It's
His
just,
name is Josh.
I think what had happened was
I like Josh.
I was.
I love you, Josh.
Stop stream. You're interrupting. Okay, kid.
Okay, bye, Josh.
I
I
was
don't think
getting
anyone here is Josh.
just getting a little long. Sorry.
Sorry about her.
I think that because the Kobold Cave attack initially went so well, the session prior, I was like, fuck, these encounters are too easy. I need to do something.
I can see that. I think it's the trick of the dice is something that happens very often, where the Kobold counter went well because we got
you rolled bad.
Yeah, you will probably not have anything this hard for a long time. I was also considering swapping him out for an easier boss. I probably should have, because I'll be honest, he's around us. He's like a CR10. He's a big boy. He's a chunky big lad, and I should have swapped him out for the other boss I had, which is an easier boss.
like. That's the thing is, we are like 3 levels below where we should even consider a CR10, though. I really
Yeah,
feel like.
it was a lot of badness on my part.
Yeah.
And I do apologize for it.
No, it's fine. You know, because like I can reflecting upon the mistakes you make as a GM is a good thing to do because you learn from it. Because I try to reflect on my mistakes all the goddamn time because I know I want to learn from those mistakes and make sure I try not to make them again, because you will.
Yeah.
If you don't watch them, you're gonna make the same mistakes, and if you realize that it doesn't feel good, it tells you like that you made a mistake and you can correct it. You know, and it's good because there could be people that would have had that session, and there are GMs that would have been like, "That's perfectly fine. We can go on, move on without it."
Oh God, no! I actually felt like really bad after that session.
I've had sessions just like this, so
I mean, we had him in Carrion Crown, I think.
Yeah,
Carrion Crown was difficult. I got to this point in time, I didn't know what the fuck to do with that. I was frustrated with trying to figure out what to do with that.
I think everyone was just frustrated with Carrion Crown.
Because like I felt like the amount of work I would have needed to sit down there and dive into it to fix the problems was very difficult to do for me, and I don't know if I could have corrected all the issues.
And the problem I did is it's a very easy one to fix. He just doesn't show back up for a long time.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Thursday right now, because like the thing is like my character was gung ho on checking out the other caves they've marked.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be that way now.
It might force the party to be
More careful?
much more careful.
Even more careful. Like I don't know. Like the practicality of it is like, are we even ready for this kind of thing? You know,
Yeah.
we're not the right people for this. That might become the mindset, and that's why I'm like, I don't know if that's the way I would take the character or not, and that's why it's
Yeah,
like it's a difficult thought. Because
I've been in that situation before.
it's a situation where something drastic has happened, and the basic mindset you have for the character is not enough that you can figure out what the character would do. Because
Yeah.
as a player, I'm kind of like middling, because like I still don't want to judge the session on just the session, because I know I wasn't in the right mindset, you know, and that's kind of hard to do as me as the player. So I'm trying to separate myself out to a degree to let myself kind of realize how I feel about it a little, like, over time. But then, like, I also want to think about how my character would act, and I'm like, I honestly do not know my reaction. There are, like, a couple of different things that I think, and from the nature of the way I've played him, I don't think any of them are helpful. Okay, I could bring back the badger. Great. Would I think about that? Would I think would I think about just heading home? Would I think about trying to go? Would I think about trying to get an easier job and still be an adventurer? I don't know. Would I continue with the group? Would I still say, like, would I go like John Wick and go vengeance or something? The last part I don't think is necessarily.
No, I don't think Wolverine would go full vengeance mode. I don't think that's in his character.
Because, like, I gotta be honest, Wolverine's kind of like a naive good boy, you know?
Yeah, he's just a good boy.
And it's just like, you know, he might know how to fight and stuff, but he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't actually mean to kill you there. A lot of times he apologizes to people he kills. I mean, you know, it's like, oh, shoot, whoops, that's a little more powerful than I think.
Yeah.
We're fighting in combat. It's going to happen occasionally.
I just do hope it hasn't soured the game as a whole. I mean, that's for everyone.
That's a tough thing.
Not just for you.
That's a tough thing, because incidents can always sour things, and the object is how much is the rest of it bringing it back, or how much are people willing to allow you to try to bring it back. And it's sort of like, I think overall, like me, Lightning, and you might have less tolerance for that because of Carrion Crown. Because Carrion Crown was a long sour over a long period of time that hurt a lot. And I'm worried that might also affect our decision making, because it was so bad.
I don't know. We'll see.
We will see.
At least 5th edition is not as punishing as Pathfinder.
Yes.
Oh god, yeah.
Yes, I will admit that it is much less punishing, and that is good in situations like this. If this was Pathfinder, this situation would have been so much worse.
Yes. There would be no coming back from the situation.
Yeah. This is 5th edition. I think that is a huge advantage of 5th edition, is when issues happen, it is much better at trying to come back from them than something like Pathfinder. It's the nature of the simplicity of it, which is both good and bad, as I think I've always said. So, anyway. But that was our week. It was a week of ups and downs, as many weeks of role-playing are. There were bad dice rolls, good dice rolls, but we got through it, and we're going to be looking forward to next week. Because of the last couple of days, I have been working on it. I am going to say this right away here. My other show that I've been planning out, the Tabletop Drive-In, I'm going to delay the premiere to that till Halloween night. It's appropriate because it's a monster thing, and it gives me another week to finish this up, because again, like, I was actually going to get a lot of the work done the last couple of days, and I honestly did not feel like it, you know? I didn't feel like sitting down and doing a lot of this stuff for the past couple of days. I even before the session on Thursday and all this stuff, and then the drama with Seven, and like, I wouldn't call it drama, the
situation
with 7 days, because it was figuring out how much longer we wanted to continue, and the discussion broke down a little bit. Is the essence of it. We were having a discussion.
Do we want to have a different game? Do we want to plan to do a certain events, and then nothing really came from it? So
we didn't. I felt like, when I said we really need to have a discussion, I meant we physically should be talking about it because text wasn't working, and I don't think Josh picked up on that. Which happens. People don't.
We were also in a game, so
yeah, it didn't help in the game because I'm trying to think of 3 things at once almost at this point in time.
Yeah. You're in a deadly combat scenario, and someone's messaging you about stuff. It's
so I'm putting the game off another week, and I think Halloween for the premiere of it is not a bad idea. That'll be the beginning of something neat in a movie and Halloween-y on Halloween night. Yeah. So that's my.
Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for that. I don't have a lot left to finish up, so I hopefully will be able to finish that up in time and get it all ready. That's my goal, and if I get some work done in the next couple of days, I definitely will feel like I can. But I also have to do some setup for Buccaneers, because I do not. We've reached the point in time where I only had about 33% of the stuff set up for part 3, so I got to set up at least another 33% to feel good about it where we're set up.
I know that feeling. Next Tuesday, I literally have nothing planned. It's basically all right, well, these things are gonna happen. There's the cave with the big boat, then there's the people on the ship, and then it's kind of whatever. What do the players want to do?
There was one major overlook that I had forgotten to do that I realized at the end of the session. One of the maps I hadn't set up, which was a map that is, again, really only applicable for about 5 days, as I said. I have a map of the Man's Promise. All its decks. Which I wanted to put up there like the other ships. But because it's not as long, I put it on a lower priority, and I haven't worked on that for a while, so I forgot all about it, and then we're at the Man's Promise, and I'm like, I can't switch to this map right now. We'll do it at the beginning of next session.
It's not done.
I have the map. I just have to, put it into Roll20 properly. That's it. So, that's not too difficult. It's just a little bit of time to do that. I gotta do it. So.
The work of a DM never ends.
Yeah.
Well,
do you two have anything to shout out otherwise?
Nope. I don't think so.
Cool.
I do not. Besides Wrath and
Buccaneers.
Yeah, go watch Wrath.
Wrath's good. Buccaneers is good. Check them both out. Buccaneers will be.
That's right. I'm in one of those games.
Wednesday at 8. On Tuesday at 9. Theoretically, I'll have Star Trek over on Funny One's channel. Hopefully, the stars will align and we'll be able to get a couple more sessions in that and kind of finish up our storyline. Again, it's just that we're trying to finish it when it's just this season in particular has changed the schedule temporarily and made things a little more difficult. Poor Mads is working extra, and Thunder has some things going on with jobs and stuff like that, and then and Joe's been really stressed out, and I'm the only one that's perfectly fine for showing up every week, and I'm I feel bad for the rest of you.
Yeah, usually you're always late. It's Tantus late Dracovin.
I've been worse lately. I've not been doing as well on my scheduling lately, I think, and I've got to
happens.
That's just been, I think, a little bit of the kind of attitude-y things. It's not been pushing me as forward to rush as much.
Mental health. It's important.
It is important. Yeah. It's very important.
So,
be good to yourself and junk and whatever.
Well, it's one of those things I'm trying to think about. I've spent days where I'm with myself, but I don't think I've actually figured out, because I don't really know what it would be, an actual real just me day. What would that be? I would have to go out somewhere, because if I'm at home stuff is going to come up.
Yeah.
But where would I go and what would I do?
Oh, come on.
I do a little bit of that anyway. I go at least to get enough gifts to give all my friends in the game,
For me, I tend to listen to music. that's usually my outlet. Is if I'm in not a not good mood. First thing, usually, if I'm in a really bad mood, I'll listen to music that makes it worse, and then I'll feel so bad that I'm like, all right, I need to listen to something else, and then that usually cheers me up. It's just I'm weird like that, but I'm also tend to be alone and not be bothered by people. That's really easy for me to just kind of shut out the outside world.
Yeah, I've got family around a lot. I've been glad that this year has been good because people have not been around as much, finally, because my niece is back to school. It was so much better when, like, me and my brother would occasionally say hi to each other and then go off into separate corners of the house and, call it
Yeah.
And then he might be like, oh, can you help me with something? Or I come up to him and be like, can you help me with something? And then we do that, and then we return to our separate corners of the house. It was good times.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, Tuesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. EST for Children of Wrath. I will probably be doing Valheim in and off now because, as I think I've kind of talked about, at least with other people, Valheim is such a game, now that I've been playing it, that I feel like it's a lot of material is just farming stuff, and unless I do not have the kind of community that would enjoy, I think, the massive amounts of farming that is related to that. I don't mind doing that.
There's so much farming.
Yeah, but I can do that off stream and then come back. Like, I do have a session planned out because me and Blaze have set up to fight the 4th boss. So I will be having a session soon where me and Blaze will fight the 4th boss. But I spent a lot of time mining out silver and doing all this and doing all that and setting up all this other shit in order to get that set up. Like, I guess I could have had the epic journey down south to go to where the boss was when I finally discovered it. But the boat rides are kind of a little boring too sometimes. You can have to... I feel like if I had a lot more people where we could have discussions during these downtimes and stuff a lot better. Like, sign up like 7 days. 7 days is very grindy, but you can chat with people a lot more and, have discussions, and that can improve it. But I'll probably be doing some other stuff too, though. I've had some things that I've been thinking about doing. I just have to choose which one I want to do. I've considered actually doing either... the Resident Evil, the original remake for GameCube, the randomizer for that one, because I played shit out of that one back in the day. I'd probably be really rusty about that on that one now, but I played and basically beat all the difficulties back in the day on GameCube. So I played a lot of that, but the randomizer seems fun, or one of the RPG randomizers like the Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger. I'm familiar-ish with those 3, so I could probably do those 3 at least. There's a few other like RPG based randomizers and they seem neat. So
Don't do a Dark Souls randomizer.
No.
That's just Dark Souls just like
Look,
that.
I saw my good friend Lee Belmont, who was on season 1 of Children of Wrath. He was doing Metroid Fusion, I think it is, randomizers, and I'm like, that's neat. And it got me thinking about it because I had seen those other ones in passing before.
I'm just wondering now, like if you were playing Final Fantasy, let's just say 5, for example, and it was 100% randomized, you could just open up a chest and get like end the game weapon.
Yes. But the thing is also, I think like a good randomizer may also randomize like not necessarily like the wouldn't fully randomize
like a pool of items that would be in that chest.
Yeah. And also might, and that's a randomizer run, because you do runs of a randomizer. You might get lucky and get really good gear. I think other things could, like, randomize, I think I was looking a little bit, like, because the first RPG one I'd heard about was the Final Fantasy 1 one, and they do things like the weapons will have a randomized modifier to them. So you might find an endgame weapon, but it also might be kind of sucky. But, like, I think, like...
It'd be interesting to see.
And maybe you'll power through the early game, but maybe the item you need for the early game is set in, like, a very difficult dungeon anyway.
Yeah, randomizers are random.
Yeah, that's the point of them.
Yeah.
So you can have all kinds of weird runs and stuff like that, and they're interesting that way. I mean, like, I like a good RPG, too, because I was also thinking about playing some RPGs, like, on the channel. And getting some
I was watching someone that's playing Earthbound, and I'm like, I never got that far into that game, but it's like, do I still have it somewhere?
Oh boy.
Time to dig through the pile.
Like,
Yeah.
other than, I think I own Final Fantasy 1 and Dragon Quest 4. Those are the only two NES RPGs I had. I played Dragon Quest 1 because a relative of mine had it. I was not good at it. Because I was also very young, and that was around the time it came out. But, like, I don't think I really played RPG-based video games until, like, SNES, Sega Genesis, and that time period. And there's some pretty crazy ones from that time period. Some of them are probably better for played on, like, stream or something than others. And the question of, like, can you carry a conversation during some of the grind? Anyway. Enough discussion on that. I'll figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Let people know. I'll have some streams. Expect the big stuff coming up as normal on the schedule. And, these people here will at least be joining me on Wednesday. Hey, Pirates.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Pirates.
Where we're gonna yeet everyone off the ship in a huge spell or something. I
Definitely.
don't know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
100%.
100%.
I've learned Destroy Universe.
Oh no.
Not again. That's the third time. This is the third universe this week you've destroyed. You got to learn to do it. It's something else.
Well, I mean, because I destroyed the first one, it's just a cantrip for me now. So I just cantrip cast Destroy Universe.
That video is so stupid.
That's it's like a cool idea for a campaign, but like, oh man.
I have been in a campaign where a universe was destroyed.
I mean, yeah, I was in that too.
No.
We destroyed it.
A different one before then.
Oh, okay.
I was in a campaign where the universe was destroyed like the third session in.
Whoa.
We were playing where
Nice.
we were supposed to. It was an evil campaign, and they were using the legend of occasionally a phoenix usually lays an egg, which is its reincarnation, but occasionally they lay a second egg, a black egg, which is all the evil of like the phoenix has encountered over a number of its reincarnations, kind of embodied in this egg, and it sort of like dissipates on its own. But there's like weird legends behind it of what happens if like it should hatch or like things like that. Anyway, we went and stole it, and we brought it back to a hag. But the hag pissed off our anti-paladin. So we broke open the black egg, and it ended Faerun in our timeline. And we were at the epicenter, so rather than being destroyed, we got teleported to another universe.
Amazing.
Unfortunately, at that point in time, one of us didn't quite survive. So poor Joe's character, who was like our sorcerer, his soul got ripped from its body and entered into a staff of fireballs. So for a limited time, we had a staff of fireballs that could talk with us. But then we reincarnated him, so he became a real boy. Look, there were some weird campaigns.
That's the name of an anime. So the one time I got reincarnated as a staff of fireballs.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, he could use the charges from the staff or the charges from his class. If he used the staff ones and ran out of them, he would die. Because it was 3rd edition, and they've just become like, they run out of stuff, they just become a normal staff. So he had to balance. He's like, I can only use my own, slots I get from being a sorcerer.
That is a, that reminds me of an anime, Soul Eater, where like the weapon is a person.
Yeah.
Well, eventually he became a person again. And I was a Drider, that was a male Drider that had been banished because I was very loyal to Loth, but I still was a male. And I was like, yeah, my place isn't here, I'm going to go find a new place where I can get some worship of Loth.
Be an evil giant spider monster somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time I hid in a tree and made like a stealth check, and I rolled, and I rolled like a 25, and they're like, how are you hidden? You're a giant spider in a tree.
You got the leaves covering you.
I'm like, carefully. I also did like 5. I also had like its 3rd edition had some crazy cleric spells. Like there was one that did like 5d6 in like a 40 foot radius. It was like a 4th level like cleric spell, like Earth Reaver, and I killed like an army of orcs with it. Look, we showed up. There were orcs, and so our anti-paladin was hewing through them, and our anti-paladin was a vampire, so the orcs couldn't injure him because he was immune to criticals in 3.0, and none of them could do enough damage to get through his damage reduction.
Good old vampires.
He had like damage reduction.
You know what? Well, let's just turn Wolverine into a vampire.
I mean, I have rules for that.
Anyway,
Just curse him with unlife.
bye everybody.
I.
Bye.